All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the February 15th, 2022 Hempstead Town Board meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Clavin.
Here.
Councilman Carini.
Here.
Councilman D'Esposito. Oh, excuse me. Councilman Dunn. Here. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Here. Councilman Muscarella.
Here.
I'm now going to ask Councilman Muscarella to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please call item 11 on the administrative calendar as our first order of business today?
Yes, so on the administrative calendar, we have a resolution appointing Melissa L. Miller, councilperson for Councilmatic District 3 of the town of Hempstead.
Okay, I do not have any slips on administrative item number 11. Is there any in the, hold on, relax. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to be heard on this? If you please go back to the podium, Mr. Riccacci, and you give your name and address for the record, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Felix Riccacci, Franklin Square. I do not believe elected officials should be appointed for the very reasons Councilman Gooseby used to articulate each time one was appointed. One problem that is especially acute in the town of Hempstead is the prevalent use of mailings, which are used more like campaign literature than to provide useful information to residents. For these reasons, I oppose appointing Ms. Miller as councilperson. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Riccacci. Anybody else would like to speak on administrative item number 11? Okay, if not, may I please have a motion?
I move that we accept item number 11.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Oh, Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. And Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Yep. You're good from us. Councilwoman. There you go. Soon to be Councilwoman.
Brandon's coming. I, Melissa L. Miller, will solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, the Code of the Town of Hempstead, and I will faithfully execute the duties of councilwoman to the best of my ability, so help me God. Congratulations. Congratulations, Councilwoman Miller. And I just, for the record, let it be noted that Councilwoman Miller has signed her oath of office, and it is being delivered to the town clerk's office as we speak.
Yeah, welcome aboard. You know what? We're excited to have you here. You've done a wonderful job in Albany. And I just want to let you know this is what it's like every single town board meeting. Everyone's usually in a happy mood and, always giving a round of applause and cheering. You'll see. So, Madam Clerk, would you please call the first public hearing?
Yes, we have a proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Oceanside.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard? Okay, I do not have any slips. Is any member of the audience that wish to be heard on item number 1? If not, may I please have a motion?
Move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman Miller. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in North Woodmere.
Any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Okay, I do not have any slips on item number 2 on the calendar. Does anybody in the audience wish to be heard on item number 2? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second the motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman Miller. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Elmont.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard? Okay, I do not have any slips on item number 3. Does any member of the audience wish to be heard on item number 3? If not, may I please have a motion?
I make the motion that it's closed and adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding traffic regulations in the vicinity of schools in Uniondale.
Okay, I do not have any slips on this item. Any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Okay, anybody in the audience that didn't sign in wishes to be heard on item number 4? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move that the proposed resolution be appointed.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed handicap parking on public streets in East Atlantic Beach and Belrose Terrace.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard on this? I do not have any slips on this. Any member of the audience wishes to be heard on item number 5? If not, may I please have a motion?
I make the motion that it's closed and adopted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding failure to stop for school buses.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Okay, I do have a slip on this. Bonnie Garone? Good morning. If you give me name and address for the record, thank you.
Bonnie Garone, Rockville Center. To be clear, I think that passing a school bus is a selfish and dangerous act and that it should have consequences. But I believe that there are some serious questions about this legislation that should be answered before there is a vote. Number one, I'm going to go through my five questions. I've narrowed it down to 5. And I hope that we will get answers, and if not, I hope that someone will speak after me and follow up on these questions. So number one, why wasn't more, or actually any, notice given to the public about this proposed law? It's significant legislation that affects every taxpayer, resident, and driver, and I would venture to guess that the vast majority of residents have no idea that this is in the works. Number two, has the town collaborated with the county? If this is going to be done, shouldn't it be done at the county level? Bus routes meander over and into and out of the town, and there's no authority to operate outside the town's boundaries, so it would make more sense to do this on a county level. Number 3, the legislation provides that the town will contract with school districts to implement the program, but how can schools authorize installation of equipment and operation on buses that they don't own? And most school districts have a contract with the company that owns the buses and runs the buses. So it's not clear how this is going to work. Number 4, what type of new departments or units or employees does the town anticipate needing in order to implement and operate this program? And if there are jobs, will they be open, posted, and open to anybody who's qualified? This is a relevant question because the town has to send out the notices of liability, review the images and produce sworn certificates, develop and produce an annual report, and install signage. And by the way, that contradicts the master agreement approved last meeting, which said that the vendor installs the signage. So that's not clear. And finally, and probably most important, what will the cost be to the town? The residents should know this. What kind of analysis has been done? The agreement authorized at the last meeting said that we will get 55% of the ticket revenue, but have you calculated such things as the costs to the school districts, which the proposed legislation says will be borne entirely by the town? And while the master agreement provides that the contractor will reimburse all administrative costs, you know that there ultimately will be a disagreement on what that covers. So can you please tell the residents, have you done an analysis of the revenue against the costs of this program? Can you, will you answer any of those 5 questions?
Supervisor, I'd like to respond to a couple of the questions that were raised by Ms. Garone. First of all, notice was given in accordance with the law, as we do for any proposed local law. This is also similar, if not identical, to the law that was enacted, the local law that was enacted in Dutchess County and in Suffolk. It is an opt-in provided to a town or a county. That is, it was the state that created the legislation, the state of New York, and the town of Hempstead has the option to opt in, and that's what this local law is doing. The wording and the drafting and everything else is a creature of state statute. We simply opt into it, which is what we are considering today. In terms of cooperation with the county, we are always open to that. The county may also opt in. They may pass their own local law. That was done on a county level by Dutchess. The county has not yet acted, to our knowledge, which is why the town has acted. In terms of the school districts, they have their own contracts for bus transportation. The school districts will be either opting in to participate in our law. If the county passes a similar law, they can opt into the county law. And the details as to whether or not the buses have the cameras are something that they will have to work out if they opt into the Town of Hempstead law. With respect to new employees, this, like many other traffic matters, will be regulated by the Department of Public Safety. The law itself provides for the creation of a position for somebody to monitor the pictures that are taken by the school bus cameras that determine whether or not somebody ran through a stop sign on a bus that was parked picking up children. We don't yet know the volume of tickets that we will be receiving. We don't yet know the number of school districts that will be opting in. So we don't yet know the volume of work that will be necessary in order to implement the entire project. We do know that this goes also to your question about costs. We do know that in Dutchess, as well as in Suffolk, the program has been successful. And as time has gone by, more and more of the local school districts opted in. It ultimately became something that was very cost efficient for the municipalities who administered the program and have the enforcement mechanism, be it a town or a county, as well as something that the school districts saw as a primary safety goal.
As always, Mr. Nocella, you are very eloquent. I don't believe, however, that you've answered the questions. I hope that there's somebody in this audience who will follow up and ask for specific
Thank you, Ms. Garone.
answers.
I do think Joe did a really solid job answering your questions.
You
We
always
appreciate
do.
it. I don't have any other slips on item number 6. If there's anybody in the audience that likes to be heard on this that hasn't signed in, if you name and address for the record, please. And is that Ms. Meriday?
Yes,
I'm not too sure, but my condolences.
thank you. Just to follow up with regard to Ms. Barone's questions that I agree weren't completely answered. I looked at this, and I too, and after the presentation, there are a lot of holes in that presentation as it pertains to not only the division and the process with regard to the revenue, but the enforceability of this. As she mentioned, it's crucial to have some type of collaboration with the county because many of these buses travel on county roads. So I think, again, this would be an opportunity to put a stop on this, or at least a hold, until you get further discussion, as opposed to just saying you're doing something for public safety that lacks enforceability and, to my mind, any type of depth of reason. Having said that, again, the contracts with the school districts, this opt-in does not provide the safety that our children and their parents deserve to watch out for those who choose to be in such a hurry, including, unfortunately, some parents who want to get by a school bus to go pick up their own children. Living in Baldwin, I have experienced near fatal crashes myself between the hours of 2 and 3 when parents decide to run through stoplights and stop signs to get to their children. So I think, again, notifying the public ahead of time with regard to what this implies and the importance of public safety generally, and I do question how the public was notified with regard to this, because you just saying that we followed standard procedure in this region, that doesn't necessarily hold water, to be quite honest. A new department, a new person, you're saying that this will fall again under public safety with the possibility of one additional person. Again, how is that strengthening the importance of this type of law from a public safety standpoint? And again, to her question, will the person be qualified or will they just be related to someone within the majority party? That's always a question in this region with regard to the increase that we have for people who make bad decisions and poor choices at the taxpayer's cost. So again, I would also inquire and hope that someone sitting in the audience who did not sign in but pays these taxes that we don't have fair distribution of resources will step up to also ask these questions, because those people who decide to run past these stop signs and the buses are also jeopardizing our seniors, our veterans, and those with physical disabilities. So we are still, with all due respect, Mr. Maselli, awaiting the answers to these specific questions, and would request that the board, and I do welcome the new council person, and it's not all bells and whistles and flowers and applause here. Trust me, there are people here who are just as adamant about what their resources get paid for and what happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, I think Mr. Nacelle, the town attorney, did actually answer all the questions on that. I don't have any other slips on this item. Does anybody else in the public that did not sign in wish to be heard on this particular hearing? If not, may I please have a motion? Councilwoman?
I make a motion that we pass this item, close the hearing and pass this item.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a hearing determining parcels benefited by construction or reconstruction of sidewalks in Baldwin, Belmore, East Meadow, East Rockaway, Elmont, Franklin Square, Hewlett, Inwood, Lido Beach, Merrick, North Baldwin, North Belmore, Oceanside, Point Lookout, Seaford, Uniondale, Valley Stream, Wantagh, West Hempstead, and Woodmere.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard on this item? I do have a slip on this. Ms. Meriday? Morning again. Name and address for the record. Thank you.
Meta J. Meriday. With regard to this item, my concern again has to do with our focus on sidewalks when our roads could be used for military exercises. We have a concern with many of our residents with the increase in repairs they have to put on their cars just to get through these unpassable town roads. So my question as it pertains to which corners, or what sidewalks are we talking about? Because everything is in disrepair as far as providing transport, whether it's walking or driving in the township. So I would just like to know, specifically as it pertains to Baldwin and North Baldwin, which sidewalks are being repaired?
Okay. Jack Libbert, I'm going to ask you to direct the commissioner to get a detailed breakdown of the streets in that particular district that she's looking for. That's Jack Libbert. That's my chief of staff in Paradise. So he will follow up and get you a breakdown of all those streets for you, okay?
Yes, and I also want to know who exactly is going to be contracting to do the work for all of the sidewalks. I've had the unfortunate pleasure of looking at some of the contracts, particularly from the last couple of hearings, and for this crowd, because usually there's an echo in this room, so I'm still trying to figure out why the majority of people are here, but I'm glad they are here, because your tax dollars, when you find out in Newsday well after the fact, are consistently mismanaged here. But the lack of diversity in the contracting is appalling. For 2022, where you have a list of contracts, and the majority of them, there's only one that has 50% of any minority and women business representation, and another one that has 25% of minority and women business participation. And I didn't see anything listed with regard to veteran business. I don't want to interrupt. You are the kind of presider here. Service disabled veteran business development. So we talk about singing the pledge and divisible and equal and things of that nature, and we continue to operate in a way that is highly divisible, lacks inclusion, and does not focus on the equity issue and the disparity that pertains to those businesses that are owned and operated by minorities, women, and service-disabled veterans. So I would like to know who is involved in the contracts for this particular work, and what is their breakdown, which is generally a state law requirement. I know sometimes this township does not feel that they have to follow the guidelines of the state and federal government, and I continue to call on New York State, as well as the federal government, to review and to provide some type of forensic audit as it pertains to where our tax dollars are going and the consistent lack of inclusion that makes us vulnerable to the number of lawsuits that we can never seem to win in majority. If we did it right the first time, we wouldn't have to have these problems. So, again, I pause and I'll await for the information. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Maraday. Deputy Commissioner Tierney, maybe we could follow up with Ms. Maraday, if you could. No, you can follow up after you get on those streets. Thank you very much. I don't have any other slips on this item. Anybody else in the public wish to be heard on this particular calendar call? Okay, if not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have the application of SDL Belmore LLC to rezone the property from Residence B to Residence CA in North Belmore.
Okay. If you give me name and address for the record, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you. My name is Daniel Baker from Sir Tillman, Ballin, Adler, and Hyman, 90 Merrick Avenue, East Meadow, New York, 11554. Good morning, Supervisor and members of the Town Board.
Morning.
I'm here representing the applicant SDL Belmore LLC for a change of zone for the property located at 1373 Belmore Road in North Belmore. SDL Belmore is in contract to purchase this property from Temple Bethel of Belmore and seeking to reconstruct the existing 3-story synagogue into a 28-unit high-end rental apartment building on virtually the existing footprint that exists now. In order to do so, the applicant is requesting a change from the existing B residence district to a CA residence district. Also, before I go on, I'll just point out that we do have materials up on the screens that will show site plans, renderings, and things like that. I've also got beside me a rendering of the proposed building from the front view, as well as an aerial colorized view of the proposed site. So they are here to see if anybody has any questions, but we can also ask the town staff to help us with changing the screens if we need to do that. I'm joined today by a number of representatives of the applicant who I will call in turn, which include our project engineers, Chris Robinson and Wayne Muller, also the project architect, Thomas Brennan, the project planning consultant, Charles Voorhees, our real estate expert, Barry Nelson, a member of the temple who will speak on their behalf, David Wayne, and finally, the principal of the applicant, Scott Layton. Subject premises is located at 1373 Belmore Road in North Belmore, also known on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map as Section 56, Lot 223, Block 223, Lot 64. It is located on the east side of Belmore Road, approximately 365 feet south of Linwood Avenue and 900 feet south of Sawmill Road. Subject parcel is approximately 62,369 square feet, or 1.43 acres, and is currently improved with a 3-story masonry building that until recently housed Temple Bethel Synagogue, Hebrew School, and Daycare Center. There are currently 66 parking spaces in the rear of the building. As with many synagogues these days, and probably sadly, membership has diminished, and many of these temples have merged with others, as is the case here. Temple Bethel has merged with East Meadow Jewish Center and no longer has a need for the subject property and the facilities there. At its height, Temple Bethel had approximately 650 families. At the time that it merged, which is a little over a year ago, or 18 months ago, it was approximately 150 families. So you can see the significant decreases that have led to this. While the building and property are still being maintained by the newly formed congregation, of course, that's not an easy task as it's not being utilized. And the 3-story building is old and tired. The applicant, SDL Belmore, proposes to demolish the existing building and construct a new, beautiful, high-end 28-unit apartment building, which will be the same number of stories as the existing building and almost identical in height and footprint as the existing building. The configuration of the lot for parking and access will also remain very similar to what is happening now, with ingress and egress coming from the sides of the building from Belmore Road, and actually the addition of one more parking space, which will make it now 67 spaces. The units will be of high-end, will be at the high end of the market, and will cater to people whose children have grown and wish to downsize in the same community, and also to young adults who are not ready yet to buy their own home, haven't really gotten too far along with their families or their children, but want a nice place to live locally near where they grew up. The layout is going to be 4 one-bedroom units, 20 two-bedroom units, and 4 three-bedroom units. Again, 67 parking spaces for these 28 units, so more than an adequate number of parking spaces, as will be detailed later by our parking and traffic engineer. In addition to the beautifully appointed building, the applicant proposes site improvements that include new parking surfaces and drainage facilities, new lighting that will not impinge on the neighboring properties, and significantly approved and additional landscaping. Our engineers will soon explain how the proposed use will have less of a traffic impact than the prior uses and those that might return if this project were not approved and the property were to remain as the use previously, and really probably the only other viable use as to what is being proposed today. Our planner will explain how the number of school-aged children to be expected from this proposal is conservatively low and will not have a negative impact on the school district. The rest of our team will further discuss the benefits and improvements the proposed use will bring to the community, as well as the applicant and the property, and show minimal negative impact along with that. The reality of this project is that the proposed use and the applicant are the best fit here to ensure a high-end addition that fits within the community and presents a return, prevents a return to another religious use with accessory uses such as school and daycare facilities that will certainly return to increased traffic and issues that give concern to the neighbors. I will just point out that concerns of the neighbors are something we're fully aware of. We did have a community meeting approximately a year ago. We had discussions with members of the community who both showed favorable responses and less than favorable responses to the project, and addressed a few of these things as best we could. But the reality is that we believe this proposal is the best fit for this property and the community. As will be discussed by the members of the team, there is no increase in traffic or school-age children that we believe will have any negative impact on the community. In fact, it's a better scenario than what other uses have been here and could be here. And this developer in particular, who has a history on Long Island of developing, is intent on creating a beautifully and aesthetically pleasing building that will lend itself not only to the community in appearance, but also as something that will allow those people who are either empty nesters or just starting out to have a place to live. And I think we all know, and this is a big discussion that has been ongoing for years and continues, that the availability for housing stock for many different communities, but certainly for those that I've pointed out, are necessary, and we believe this is a good fit. So with that, at this time, I would like to introduce Chris Robinson from R&M Engineering.
Good morning. Chris Robinson, President of R&M Engineering, doing business at 50 Elm Street, Huntington, New York. I'll just add a few more items to what Mr. Baker had said. I think he laid it out pretty well. The site, as he explained, is 1.43 acres. The proposed building, the existing footprint of the shul that was there was approximately 12,561 square feet. The footprint of the new building will be just slightly larger at 14,463 feet with a 23% lot coverage, which was well within the 35% that's permitted in the CA zone, which we are seeking to change to. The building is roughly the same location as the existing, basically the same front yard setback of roughly 35 feet. The side yard setbacks of 24 feet to the north, 29 feet to the south, over 144 feet to the rear property line. So it's well situated on the property, again, almost in the identical location of the existing facility. The rear parking lot behind the building is lower than Belmore Road by about 3 to 4 feet. The height of the building is proposed to be 34 foot 10 inches above the crown of Belmore Road, within the requirements of the CA zone, which allow 35 feet, with the exception is the CA zone allows for a 2.5 story. We're seeking a 3-story, but meeting the height limitation, the height number itself. The parking requirement, 28 units at 4 stalls for every 3 units, requires 66 spaces. We are providing 67. We also have a refuse enclosure, which is based on a meeting with the community, was brought inboard into the parking lot. We basically have a one-way circulation in and out of the site. The entrance to the south of the building will enter into the parking lot. The driveway on the north side of the building will serve as the exit back out onto Belmore Road. The site will be very well landscaped. Buffer along the rear property line will range from 9 feet to 11 feet. Contain evergreen shrubs. Again, that parking lot is about 4 feet or so lower than the surrounding houses that are there, so it adds for a nice buffer, and no one's looking down at the parking lot directly. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have, or any of the residents might have, and that includes my presentation.
Any questions, board, right now? No. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd at this time like to introduce Wayne Muller, also from R&M Engineering.
Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. My name is Wayne Muller. I'm with the firm of Robinson and Muller Engineering. Our offices are at 50 Elm Street, Huntington, New York. We prepared the plans that are before the board today depicting the proposed development. In addition, we prepared a traffic engineering assessment that was previously submitted to the board dated February 4th, 2022. I'd just like to briefly summarize the results of the analysis contained in our assessment. As indicated by Mr. Baker and Mr. Robinson, It is proposed to construct 28 apartment units on the subject property. Access to the property from Belmore Road will essentially be the same as it is today. The southern driveway will function as the ingress, and the northern driveway will function as the egress. There'll be a counterclockwise flow of traffic through the subject property. As indicated on the plans prepared by my firm, in accordance with the Town of Hempstead Building Zone Ordinance, Section 319, a total of 66 parking spaces are required for the development. As indicated on the plans, 67 parking spaces are provided, so we provide parking in excess of what the town ordinance requires. So therefore, a parking variance we will not be seeking a parking variance as a result of the construction of the project if it were to be approved. As indicated in my report, we prepared an analysis of the quantity of traffic that would be developed by this property during the peak hours, utilizing the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or ITE, traffic generation manual statistics. And essentially, what the ITE is, it's like the AMA or one of those, the American Dental Association. It's a group of traffic engineers that over the years, over the last 25 to 30 years that I've been a member of the ITE, we gather statistics, we publish them in a manual, and it allows us to estimate the quantity of traffic that could be generated by various different land uses, one of those being a apartment building, such as the one that's proposed here today, and another one being a religious use, such as a synagogue, which previously occupied the property. As indicated in my report, the proposed 28-unit apartment building will generate a fairly low quantity of traffic, and when we compare that to what could be generated by the proposed by the synagogue if it were to be reoccupied with a synagogue, the numbers would be significantly lesser during the peak hours. In addition, my client provided me some information yesterday regarding the number of children that attended the daycare facility, and for the record, I'd just like to submit copies of an analysis that we prepared.
Janine, get it.
Thank you.
And just briefly summarize what this information is. As indicated in the documents that I just submitted, we estimated the quantity of traffic that would be generated by a 60-student daycare facility, one that existed on the property prior to the synagogue vacating the premises, to that which could be generated by the proposed apartment building. And as indicated in the table that I submitted, which is dated February 14th, 2022, the daycare facility would generate almost 4 times the amount of traffic than the apartment building during the morning peak hour. Similarly, 3 times more traffic during the afternoon peak hour, and on a daily basis, it's roughly probably almost double the amount of traffic. So from a traffic engineering perspective, the construction of the proposal that's before the board today could represent a significant decrease in activity on the subject property than if the religious use were to be reoccupied and or filled with uses that are similar in character to what would be provided in such a facility. Also, as indicated in my report, if we discounting the fact that the building was a synagogue, the construction of the project would represent a roughly 2% increase in traffic on Belmore Road, which in my opinion is negligible. And therefore, again, the construction of the project that we're proposing here today, it tends to be a mitigating factor and reduce any of the potential traffic impacts associated with the development of the subject property. That is my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that may arise.
Through the chair. All right, I have just a few questions for you that have come to my attention. As you know, there's a tremendous backlash on this, like you said, pro and con. So not you said, but it was said earlier. The cost per unit, what do you have an approximate cost per unit?
I do not have that information, but I'm assuming that we can get that information for you.
Okay. Now it says 3 stories. This is considered 2 stories. This particular room is considered 2 stories. In a synagogue, usually it's similar. The second story is unused. It's just a vacant space. You're going to have living space in that third story, correct?
I'd like to get the architect.
Whoever can answer the question. It's for all 3 of you. Whoever can answer the question.
I'm sorry, Councilman Dunn. We were talking about your first question and now jumping to the second. But just so you understand, the existing building is a 3-story building. So what is being proposed is similar to what exists in the sense that it is the same number of stories. The height will be a few feet bigger for what is proposed, but generally speaking, it is the same. I think that was the same.
But the usage of the temple's third story is similar to this, correct?
You know what? We have somebody from the temple who can address that question.
Okay. Is that living space up in the third story in the existing temple?
But if you, just for the record, if you please give your name and address for the record, thank you.
David Wayne, North Belmore. The synagogue as it stands now has 3 usable stories. There is a ground level access from the rear of the building. The second level is where the sanctuary and ballroom are. And then there's a third level that had classrooms and other meeting rooms upstairs as well. So it has been, 3 full stories have been used.
Thank you. That answers that question. The increase in traffic, the temple is opened, what, twice a week for the congregation for services? And that's the usage of it right now. And if it's a living space, it'll be constant, day and night, people coming in and out of that area, correct?
Not constant, but there will be peak times of activity associated with both uses. And to the best of my knowledge, the synagogue had a daycare component. The last document that I submitted was just the traffic that would be generated by that component, which would occur 5 days per week. So, as indicated in my testimony, the proposed apartment building would generate less traffic than the daycare. So there would be less traffic during the week at the property if the project were to proceed upon approval from the board. On the weekend.
Can you just give me the dates you did your traffic study, just to the record?
The studies are based on it's a statistical analysis based on information that's compiled in a book called the Trip Generation Manual, which is industry standard data. So we use that because the synagogue is not operational at this point in time. So we did an apples to apples comparison using statistics from the manual for both the apartment building and for the daycare facility, and in addition to that which could be generated by the synagogue on the weekends.
So where'd you get your raw data from? From the GAD, or did you actually do a count out there?
We got it from the book.
From the
manual.
Okay.
Did not do counts.
Okay.
Any of the data that we reference in the report, we obtained from the New York State Department of Transportation, because due to COVID, we would utilize counts that were pre-COVID, and that's where we obtained that information.
Okay.
Okay. It's been brought to my attention from numerous calls and emails that I live on a 2-lane highway, Gardner's Avenue, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. And traffic for me, I live right across the street from a school, is twice a day. When the moms drop off the kids for the classes and when the moms come and pick up. And that's when the heaviest traffic is, and that's when it's the craziest. But this is going to be all day long, people coming in and out. It's not just school people, it's adults living there. People of all ages going to be living in this facility, correct?
Yeah, there will be activities sporadic throughout the day again, but it's probably set around the peak times of activity when people would go to work and or come home. But again, as indicated in the document that I distributed a few minutes ago, on a daily basis, A 60-student daycare facility would generate approximately 245 vehicles per day, where the proposed apartment building would generate 189. So again, there would be less activity, though some of it may occur during the peak periods, but there would be less activity on a weekday, daily basis.
Well, there seems to be a tremendous amount of concern about that because it's a two-lane highway, one lane in each direction.
I understand.
And they're very uncomfortable with that. I've received a lot of other elected officials weighing in on it too, and I got to tell you the truth, they're not in favor of it. So the other elected officials. The people that live in the area, some of them are leaders in different organizations, civic organizations, and they showed a tremendous amount of concern. And what I'm hearing more of, if you put it on a scale, the ones that are in favor aren't as many. There's quite a few. And I got to tell you, you did a great job. There's quite a few. But it's totally weighed down by those that are afraid of the traffic, afraid of being peered into their backyards by the third story. There's a lot of different concerns. If they're in the back, in their pools, having a barbecue or whatever, the third story people can be looking down into their yard, and their privacy is going to be affected. There's a lot of concerns about a number of things on this issue. If anybody has any other questions? Okay.
All right. We'll let you continue, Mr. Baker, and then obviously, we have a number of residents who are speaking.
Sure.
Okay.
And we anticipate that. I will, before I introduce the next speaker, I'll just address that a little bit. And we are certainly aware of the commentary that the town has been getting in the recent weeks since we noticed the hearing, and certainly we were aware of it when we met with the community and had a meeting at the property in the synagogue. But I think really what it comes down to, and this is probably what I would say after all of our speakers spoke or would speak, but I'll address it now, which is we certainly understand that, and I've done this many times. That's what I do. You've heard this many times. That's what you do. People tend to be concerned about what they don't know, right? And that's the story here. The proposed use is different than what has existed. But I think the reality of it is that something has to happen here. And Mr. Wayne, who spoke for a minute before, and will speak again in a little more detail later, will point out that something has to happen with this property. This temple is not going to use it. I think he will fill you in on what they have done to try and market the property, the types of offers they've received on the property, and at the end of the day, they've gotten two sources of response that seem to be viable here. One of which is a developer, such as this one, and my understanding is this was the best developer that the temple felt would fit here. Other developers were looking to do projects that would have needed variances to go up in number of stories in height, that would have been bigger and had more density, meaning more units, which would have created more traffic and all of the other things that people are concerned about. The temple felt this was a partner, meaning the applicant here, Scott Layton and his team, that they were the best partner for this project to fit within the community, because the alternative, and this is who they also heard from, would be other religious institutions. And, who knows who or what that would be, but the reality is that would, again, lead to not only services on whatever day they would be, but potential school, potential child care, and an increased number of traffic trips that Mr. Muller just explained and laid out for you. So, again, our feeling and our position is that this is the best use for everyone. We fully understand the concerns of people. Look, there are other concerns that Councilman Dunn brought up that we've heard before also. People want the privacy in their backyards. Well, with this proposal, there are going to be evergreen barriers that are put up, whether they're arborvitae or whatever other kind of planting that will grow tall. That will help. That will be better than what exists now. And the reality is there are people who could be up in the third story of the current building looking down into neighboring properties. So there are obviously a lot of concerns that people have. We understand them. we can only address them as best we can, but again, our feeling is this is the best fit. So with that, oh, you know what, Councilman Dunn, I'll try to answer one other question. I think your first one was the cost per unit. I assume you meant the rental amounts, and that was going to be discussed later also, but they will range from about $2,400 up to $3,000 or $3,200, depending on whether it's a 1, 2, or 3 bedroom. So the high end of the market, you know, we know that there have been comments out there that this was going to be you know, a low-income housing project or something that the neighboring community wouldn't, apparently doesn't want to see there, but the reality is that this is a market rate building that will, you know, be set up for people who are already in the community. So with that, I'd like to, maybe that's a good lead-in, our planning expert, Charles Voorhees, will speak next.
While both of you are there, the sound, being the parking lot is right up against their fences, their backyard, the sound and the carbon footprint of the running engines and the carbon monoxide going into their open windows or whatever. So there's other concerns also. They could be playing music in their cars loud or whatever. There's so many different concerns from so many different people. It's been I got to tell you, everywhere I've been in the Belmore, Merrick, Wantor, East Meadow area, where there are civic people that are in organizations, teachers, PTA people, mom and dads, they're very, very concerned, and they've all had negative remarks. I hope you're not going to vote for this. I hope you're not going to vote for this. And nobody said, this is going to be great. I hope you vote for it. So physically, eye to eye, face to face, I've seen people all negative. But in the emails and the phone calls, like I said, it's outweighed also. And sell me on it. Sell the people here. Sell them on it. If it's a great thing, and they're here to hear this hearing, the people from Belmore that are here about this, can you raise your hand in the audience? Now's your time to sell them on it, or fold your papers.
Wait, Councilman, why don't we let the developer finish it, and then we'll start public comment.
Okay. Thank you. Just with that, and look, I hope that there are some here that are in support as well as those who might not be for the project. But again, I think it goes to what the ultimate, you know, reality is, what's going to be here. And in our opinion, this is a beautifully designed building that will, you know, ultimately house neighbors to the community, much like other developments, you know.
No, I got you, Mr. Why don't we? I know you have your people. You still have a couple more presentations. Why don't we have that continue up?
Thank you very much, Dan. Good morning. For the record, my name is Chick Voorhees of Nelson Pope Voorhees. Our offices are in Melville, New York. I am a certified environmental professional as well as a certified planner, and I've been practicing on Long Island for about 44 years. I've been presenting in front of this board as well as others in the town of Hempstead during my entire career. And I'm here today to address fiscal and school district impacts. Our firm prepared a report, it's dated January 24th, 2022, that addresses our findings. It provides our qualifications to prepare these types of studies, and we have a successful track record of many fiscal, economic, market study reports, as well as planning reports. The project has been well defined by previous speakers. It's 28 units. I will point out that 86% of these units are 1 and 2 bedroom units. There's only a very small number of larger units. Current taxes on the site are basically negligible, as the site has been a religious use up until current times. We did use a tax opinion letter prepared by Sir Tillman Ballin to determine the assessed valuation of the property, and that's included with our report. Basically, the tax revenue was determined using the assessed valuation and distributed across the various taxing jurisdictions based on current tax bills. The information is presented in Table 4 on page 10 of our report, And it basically indicates that if constructed and occupied in current times, the project would be expected to generate $227,823 in real property taxes. This property is within two separate school districts. There's an elementary district as well as a high school district. So we distributed taxes accordingly. And those districts would also benefit from these tax revenues. So that's specifically the North Belmore Union Free School District and the Belmore Merrick Central School District, which includes the high school. And you'll see in Table 4 that we also identify all of the taxing jurisdictions that would benefit, and that includes county, fire district, town taxes, and so forth. Our report also seeks to estimate the expected number of school-age children in order to determine potential impacts on community services, specifically schools. We do this work a lot, and there are a number of references that we use dating back as far as 2006 and dating as current as 2020. And we reviewed for this report 4 different demographic studies that seek to identify the number of school-age children. Although several of the studies do have multipliers that would indicate that there are no school-age children or very low numbers, lower than what we used, we took a conservative approach and used a Town of Hempstead average based on the Long Island Housing Partnership study, as well as the Stony Brook study to determine a multiplier based on the number of units and an estimate of 6 school-age children. Again, it's important to recognize that this type of development generally does not generate a large number of children, and the references, sources, and demographic studies bear that out. That means that there will be a fiscal benefit to the school district. Nearly 60% of the taxes are available to the two school districts that I mentioned. The total is $133,407 out of the full revenue that I indicated before. We distributed these taxes between the North Belmore and Belmore Merrick Central School District based on allocations of the revenues that are received from total taxes reported by the Office of the New York State Comptroller. We then determined the cost of education based on the number of students, whether they were general education or special education students, using published data that the school district supplies New York State. Based on this analysis, which is contained in Table 5, there's a net surplus of tax revenue to each school district when considering the cost of education. And this increases when considering state aid, which is also broken down in the table. Now, I will point out that assumes full taxation. At the time, it's assessed by the town sole assessor and is independent of any other incentives, which would be subject to negotiated pilot payments and so forth. In closing, there are 28 proposed units. They're mostly 1- and 2-bedroom units. There's a low number of school-age children expected from these types of units. The project will put the parcel back on the tax rolls where it currently is not. The project will generate substantial tax revenue when comparing this to the cost of education and result in a surplus of revenue to both districts, as well as the list of taxing jurisdictions that I indicated. Also, the project provides needed housing. It provides a number of affordable housing units based on the percentages. It will create construction and operational jobs going forward. That concludes the analysis that I provided. I do want to say a couple of things regarding just some of the questions from the councilman before. Though I didn't study it specifically based on my credentials, I can indicate that the existing use would have as much, if not greater, noise generation potential But even in that case, cars moving at slow speeds through a parking lot are not unlike and probably less than cars circulating on streets within the area.
I just got to, I don't want to interrupt you here.
Thank you.
Did you actually do this study, or are you just giving your opinion?
This is a professional opinion.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, so you didn't do any sort of study you're talking about right now?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
To address
Okay,
the comment based on my qualifications.
Thank-
Well, I thank you. That concludes my presentation and remarks, and I'm here if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing is, just, we're a little sensitive to this. There is no town assessor, there's a county assessor. We don't particularly like that, so we stay away from that.
Thank you.
You know I'm sensitive to that.
Yes, I know. Mindful of our time here, next up we'll have Barry Nelson speak. He's spoken many times before the board. And then after that, just two quick people will be both someone from the temple and someone from the applicant.
Good morning, Supervisor Clavin, members of the Town Board. It's Barry Nelson, 220 Pettit Avenue, Belmore, New York, 11710. I am a licensed real estate appraiser, licensed real estate broker. I've been practicing almost 40 years now, specializing in zoning-related matters, Town Board, Board of Appeals applications. I've testified on many similar applications as proposed today, and what it is a rezoning, change of zone from a residential B district to a residential CA district. The application before the board for 28 units on 1.4 plus acres is a fully compliant proposal except for the number of stories. The introduction or the change of zone to a CA residential district is not a unique application to this board or to any of the municipalities within Nassau County and Suffolk County. I've worked on many applications in this town, and I'm going to name many of them that the town board members and members of this audience today have driven by and don't even know they exist. Going back to the 1960s, to the 1970s. In the 1960s, you had the garden apartment districts. 1970s, 1980s, you had the introduction of the CA zoning for multifamily, and the Golden Age districts. The interesting aspect is that they become part of their community, and they are not detrimental to property values, growth, or quality of life issues. Recently, Farmingdale has developed many apartments, multifamily type districts, Village of Hempstead, West Hempstead, Island Park, Lynbrook, Mineola. Mineola is proactive. Valley Stream is proactive in these type of developments. Valley Stream, Amityville. To address some concerns, this development is proposed to comply in lot area occupied substantially below the 35% lot occupied. This is perfect. As far as the site plan, if you can bring up the site plan, that would be helpful. Colored lights, that's the one. The building is oriented almost on the same footprint as the existing institution. It provides for the setback of the rear at over 150, almost 150 feet with a 10-foot landscape buffer, double layer of landscaping on the rear property line. To the north, it's 25 feet off the property line. To the south, it's somewhat similar. You got the ingress on the south and the exit on the northerly side. The community or the immediate developments are single-family. There are some non-conforming one-family, two-family residences in the area, but they were built, majority of them were built in the same era, 1950s, early 1960s, when the synagogue was developed. The introduction of some flag lot residences to the north, and that met with opposition. We don't want a house in our backyard. Same to the south. There are, I think, 3 houses on flag lots to the north, 3 to the south. They were built in the late 1980s, early 1990s. They became the part of the community, and they have not been detrimental to property values, quality of life issues, or character of the neighborhood. Those homes now are $700,000, $800,000, and almost $1 million. There's some recent sales in the area. The houses along Liberty Avenue to the east, they were built the same time the synagogue was built, and that was in the late 1950s. They originally were in the 150, 250. Now they're in excess of 750 to $1 million. I think there's one on Liberty now at asking close to $1 million. Nevertheless, some 1-acre sites throughout the town, and I could probably stay within Belmore, that were developed in the 1980s. And you have on Lakeview Road, just south of Sunrise Highway, it's a residential area. Lakeview Road, 2050. It's a 1-acre site with 22 units. They were built in the 1980s. You have on Farmers Avenue, 2410, just north of Merrick Road. It's a residential community off of Merrick Road to the north. Built 1982, 20 units on just less than 1 acre. The Sanford, S-A-N-F-O-R-D Court in Wantor, it's off of Jerusalem Avenue, Wantor Parkway just to the west, surrounded by single-family residential homes. It's 84 units, built in 1986. Originally, it was the Cherrywood Elementary School that was rezoned, and 84 units that were constructed on that site. Front Street in East Meadow, there are numerous developments of multifamily townhouses that were rezoned in the 80s, 90s, that have become part of the community, part of the growth of that community. Recently, you have several developments on Carmen Avenue in Westbury, one on the east side, one on the west side, of change of zone for residential, and that area was the LPRD district and the residential B to the CA zoning. They've been developed, sold, and now part of the community, and you can drive up and down, and it has no impact to my driving up and down, visibility as well. You have some up in Levittown on Schoolhouse Road. It was a development for assisted living. So to sum up on this type of development.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes, sir.
I look, and I appreciate that. Do you know what the square foot or how high the one in Levittown is?
Most of them are two.
No, I didn't ask you for most of them. I just asked you, do you know how high it is?
Which one are we talking about?
The one you just cited to in Levittown for the assisted living. Do you know how high it is?
That's 35 feet.
Okay, okay. And all the other ones, do you know the heights of all the projects that you're giving the comparison to?
They all comply with the heights.
That's nice. It's a nice answer. I appreciate that. Yeah, do you want to go through each one of the heights for the residents? Because you cited a number, and I think, let's be fair on that, okay? If you're gonna compare, then you should compare, not oranges and apples, but we should compare apples and apples.
Okay, so I believe this application may be looked at in two parts. you have the CA zoning request, the change of zoning from residential B to the CA, multifamily. So what I've demonstrated to the board is that the change of zone is harmonious with the surrounding uses. Now, if I understand it correctly, it would not be the specific number of, it would be number of stories that's bringing out the concern. We have the density compliant and the lot coverage under. I believe there is an alternative that possibly lends itself out to spread the building out, similar to the Engel Berman developments and the Michael Dub Beechwood developments, where you have a number of detached buildings with simplexes. You do have a recent development that was constructed that's 3 stories that was approved on Jerusalem Avenue in the Uniondale community, and that was Golden Age and the CA zoning. Today it's known as Sutton Landing and the Bricks. That is on the westerly side of the A. Holly Patterson community. And I believe what's proposed today would be a substantially better quality, not that those guys don't build good quality developments, but for a smaller boutique type of application, it's similar in that story in height. It's on Jerusalem Avenue. It does abut residences on the westerly and northerly side of that development. Going back, 2 parts of this application. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the applicant still needs to go to the Board of Appeals to get the number of stories, not height, but stories. Nevertheless, the introduction of a CA zoning in a residential community does not negatively affect property values, does not impede the growth of that community, or a quality of life issues. Now, if we were concerned, just to mention that quality of life, where there was a concern with 3 stories and those residences looking onto the residential houses, what's up on the screens right now, the site plan, colored landscaping. You have the 3 houses to the north. The 2 houses on the inside were constructed on flag lots. They have rear yard setbacks of at least 30-plus feet to the property line and 25 feet, and those would only be touching the northeast corner of that building or viewing. You have 1 single house to the north that fronts onto Belmore Road. The houses that are on the west side of Liberty Avenue have rear yard setbacks, and those are oversized lots with over 100-foot depths, 125-foot depths. Those houses have approximately 40-foot rear yards, and it's 140 feet plus to the rear of the subject building proposed. And you have a double layer of screening along that property line on the east. The parking field is set down. There's a berm up to those residences and landscaping. Now you have 1 house to the south, which I don't even believe is being used as a true 1-family house. I believe it's a child care facility. And then you have 3 flag lots. So as far as quality of life issues for the abutting homeowners, you have possibly 1 to the north. The rear, I don't think it's going to have any impact on viewing as far as what they see today to what they will see when this is constructed.
Okay, what's the address on that piece of property?
Which one are we talking about?
The one that you're saying really they're not going to have any affected view.
You want the specific house numbers on each?
Yeah, like I said,
I will.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure of your question. Let me just get to my site plan on my. So, the house to the north, immediately north, would be 1980 to 1992, I'm sorry, it would be 1323 Belmore Road.
Okay.
The two flag lots to the north would be 1917 and 1919, 1317 and 1319 Belmore Road.
Okay.
The one house to the south is 1377. That was a house that was constructed in 1920. If the board would like, I'll give you the house numbers.
That's fine. That's all I need, Ms. Nelson. I just want to see if they're here today, if their opinion of it.
I'm sure. As far as, I believe that will sum up. But as far as if you want to get into number of stories again, or heights, recently constructed in Lynbrook, the old Capri Motel. It's a 4-story building, apartments, and it's across the street from residential homes. It's off of Sunrise Highway. I know that's a unique situation. You took away a onerous use to put something a little bit better. It had leverage as far as an approval. I've worked on some recent, but they haven't been fully developed yet in Valley Stream for 4-story apartment buildings in a similar type zone. You have them in downtown Farmingdale, where they do back up to single-family residential homes. So that's how I was able to form my opinion today to present to this board.
Okay.
I'm being more than happy to answer any other questions.
I think if you stick around,
Absolutely.
obviously we got one or two residents are probably going to have some questions, so
I'm sure.
we'll follow up with that.
What's that? Thank you.
Thank you. Just one or two. We'll be quick on these. I'd like to call David Wayne from Temple Bethel.
Good morning again, Mr. Still morning, I give you. Good morning again, Mr. Wayne.
Yes. Good morning, Supervisor Clavin and council members. So, as you know now, I reside in North Belmore, and I've been a resident for 35 years. I'm a past president of the congregation of Temple Bethel and had been, along with others, involved in the sale of the property. I'd like to share how we came to where we are today and how we very much had the community in mind in all of our decision-making. Temple Bethel existed at the site for 70 years. We were at one time more than 600 members. We were close to 800 members and enjoyed a wonderful relationship with our neighbors. Many of us are residents living near the property and still integrally involved in the affairs of the community and are genuinely concerned for its continued well-being. Our congregation had dwindled to 140 members, and maintaining our programming and the building had become a burden. We decided to consolidate with East Meadow Jewish Center and Congregation Beth Tikva and Wantor as well, and as a result, we put our building up for sale. We were hoping to stay within the allowable zoning requirements, and we enlisted the service of a real estate broker, Griner Maltz, who marketed the property to a wide variety of developers and other potential users of the building as is. We were open to whatever legitimate offer came our way, but we were not going to let the property become an eyesore, a nuisance, nor a burden on the community. Again, many of us still reside in the neighborhood and care deeply about it. Our search for a buyer lasted over 2 years. Again, we were not going to accept the first offer that came our way, and we were determined to be judicious with the best interests of the neighborhood in mind. We had some interest, which included inquiries from other religious organizations. In the end, however, we only had genuine interest from 3 parties, all of whom wanted to build only a residential apartment building. Not a single party was interested in building private homes. I can only speculate that the cost of tearing down the building and reforming the land would make the project too expensive. I'd also like to say that prior to the synagogue being built, 70 years ago, the property was a bar and grill. No private homes ever existed on that land. There must be some underlying reason for that. We were left with only 3 legitimate buyers. Each wanted to build the kind of project that we are talking about here today. One, in fact, wanted to build 39 apartments and 4 stories. Scott Layton had the most neighborhood-friendly plan. The plan included the least number of apartments from among the 3 developers. Scott also wanted to maintain the original footprint of the building so as not to be any closer to the neighboring houses than the building is today. Aside from the fewest number of apartments, we were impressed by the beauty of the proposed facade, the large size of the apartments, the high-end finishes, and the proposed lease prices, and the desire to create opportunities for people who wish to sell their homes and stay in the neighborhood. There are no other developments like this in North Belmore and the immediate area. Based on these, we were comfortable in assuming that a stable set of lessees would occupy the building. As you've already heard, traffic will not be different from what it was. While we were in operation, which included an active preschool, a Hebrew school, religious services, multiple events going on in the mornings and the afternoons and on weekends, the building, nothing would be altered. The building during the lifespan of Temple Bethel was in use 7 days a week from morning until evening. Selling this building was a difficult endeavor as we, the former members of Temple Bethel, truly loved it and loved the community that had been our home. However, we believe that the aesthetic appeal, the stability of lessees, and having the property now on the tax rolls makes this a benefit for the community and the town as a whole. As a retired school administrator, I can also say with certainty that even if every family had school-age children, this would have no effect on the staffing of the school, as classes now are significantly below the class size limits set by the North Belmore Board of Education and can easily absorb 1 or 2 students in the same grade. And that data can be found on the New York State Department of Education data sites. Residents of this building having school-age children all in the same grade is extremely unlikely. Dispersing the students among 13 grades would have no significant burden on the school and would not cause a need to hire even a single teacher. It is also unlikely that all 28 apartments would have school-age children. And now, with the utmost respect for you and for everyone here, be absolutely certain we need to sell this building. If this project does not go forward, we will either sell or rent the building as is within the existing zoning requirements, and that means there could be some other religious organization, school, or some other enterprise that falls within the permissible use of the property. If there is no need to come before the board, new users of this building would do whatever they want with the building. They could create as much traffic, they can change the facade, they can do whatever they want. That will certainly affect the quality of the neighborhood. Again, we had no buyer with interest in building single-family homes, and there is no expectation that any such buyer would ever come along. The cost of maintaining the building is now being incurred by the organizations that our congregation consolidated with, and we may not be able to continue maintaining it as we have. We will look to alleviate this financial burden in the most expeditious way. This project, for all the reasons you have heard, maintains the aesthetic and suburban nature and quality of life in the neighborhood. I urge the board to approve this request so that this project can go forward. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, I would ask Scott Layton, the applicant, to speak, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Name and address to the record.
Sure. Scott Layton, address Manhattan, New York. David, did you say it took 2 years to find a buyer? I don't feel that lucky. I don't know, but in any event, so I'd like to put myself in your shoes to answer what I think maybe some of the questions are from the audience. Number one, I am Scott Layton. I was born and raised in Baldwin, New York, and in a community not unlike the Belmore community. I have been developing residential properties for 30 years in the New York metropolitan area. They have been from the small of 11 units to 280 units. And one of the things that, to our benefit, is that every job we have started, every job that we put a shovel in the ground, we have finished, in good times and bad. So you can assure yourself that this will not be an incompleted project once it gets started. We take pride in all of our developments, and design is a paramount concern on all of our developments, and I think you'll see it throughout the look of this property. But I'd like to respond to some of the concerns I've heard. One, let's talk about that I've heard the property would be a transient low-income housing. Let me be clear, this will be anything but a low-income housing development. The development is being designed, will be constructed and delivered to an affluent tenant. There will be leases of a minimum of 1 year. As we said, the rents will range from $2,400 to $3,000, and the tenants will pay for the utilities. So they will, in addition, pay for the utilities. The interior finishes will include high-end kitchens, including granite countertops, islands, high-end stainless steel appliances, upscale bathrooms, including high-end fixtures and ceramic tile, frameless shower doors. The property will be energy efficient, state-of-the-art heating, cooling, and venting. We will also be installing a 3-story elevator, uncommon for a 3-story building. We do that so that we can attract a senior tenant, more established, that can also pay the rent in accordance with that. The building is not a cookie-cutter building. It's not a rectangular box. It's got contours, in and outs, that create shadows, texture. We have stone, goes 2.5 stories up in most places. The roof is a hip roof, not just a peak roof, it's a hip roof with dormers. This facade, this building, will cost a lot of money and can only be supported by attracting affluent tenants. So again, any concerns that this will be a low-income housing or attract any tenants of that sort, it won't. It can't. From the ground up, this is a high-end development. Secondly, let me talk about traffic, and not in the technical terms from what Wayne Mueller did, but just as to compare this to a vacant piece of property, to compare this to a vacant temple is unfair and illogical. There's no traffic at this point. But compare it to what it was not too long ago. They had 5, 6 full-time people. They had, as we said, 60 daycare people. That's 60 cars in the morning and the afternoon that were dropping off. They had services at 7 o'clock and 8:30 every day. They had bingo on Monday nights for 85 players and 25 workers. This isn't even including any bar mitzvahs, any bar mitzvahs, any other events that went on there. It's easy to say that this will have less of an impact, 28 homes, compared to a temple, even at its low membership. So that's just practical. I think, I heard also regarding the parking lot and the fumes of the cars. Well, that's a temple here. They have cars that come by that are there. It would be less impact, less pollution. We also intend to have some charging stations for electric cars, probably 4 to 8 charging stations. We will also have a very energy efficient building. So, and there, again, same thing, there exists today a 3-story building of which we are, I think, replacing it with something substantially more in context with the residential area here. So I'm 100% confident as a developer that takes pride in their work, that when completed, that people will be very happy with the results, with the community, with the town of Hempstead. I believe this fits in very well. So I would like to thank the town board for the time for me to present my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Layden. Mr. Baker, anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. That's it for now. We're all sticking around and happy to answer any questions, comments, concerns that will come up.
Okay. Like I said, I appreciate that. We do have a number of residents that want to be heard. Just remind everybody, when you please come up and give your name and address, and we have a 3-minute clock that runs on you there. We'll start with Norman Egan.
And Supervisor, as our first neighbor is coming to speak, I do want to note for the record that between your office, Councilman Dunn's office, and my office, we have received 44 emails from neighbors against the proposition and 16 emails in favor of the proposal. Those will be made part of the official record.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Egan. If you give name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Norman Egan, 1374 Belmore Road. That's my driveway down in the lower right of that photo. My first time ever doing a town hall, so forgive me if I break any protocols. I do want to thank the people from the synagogue for actually maintaining the synagogue to date. For the last 2 years they've not been there, and it's great to see that it's still being looked after. I do have a lot of questions from everything I just heard, so I'll just read them. Will the existing street, Belmore Road right now, will there be any modifications to that? Will there be turning lanes added? On the street right now, there are no parking signs. Will that stay in effect if this goes ahead? On the traffic study, I don't think anybody was comparing it to an empty synagogue. We're comparing it to what it used to be. And since this started, a new daycare facility has opened at the end of Belmore Road. So is that being taken into effect for the additional traffic that that's bringing? I'd also like to point out that the congregation, due to religious beliefs, mostly walked when there was service. So we didn't see a lot of traffic from that. 2%, somebody mentioned that the traffic from Emmanuel might be a 2% increase, and that's negligible. It's not negligible on a busy road that Belmore Road is. Adding something like this significantly increases the traffic, in my opinion. And it seems a lot of opinions rather than actual studies were offered here today. If there is construction, how long will the construction take? How many people will be working on the construction? Is there an allowance for all of those vehicles? The councilman mentioned that it's constant traffic. Living on Belmore Road, I have seen a UPS truck making a delivery on Belmore Road to a residence cause a traffic jam. I don't know what it will be like when there's constant deliveries going into an apartment building. I heard mention of the 60 students. I'd be interested to know what was the average enrollment in the daycare for the last 5 years. Was it 60 students every year for the last 5 years, or was it the capability to have 60 students? The gentleman from the real estate mentioned the privacy, and he was adamant that there's only one house impacted. As you can see, my driveway and my neighbours are here, their driveways. We're looking right into the synagogue. A 3rd-story building with residents means they're now looking right into our living rooms. Is there been a study on the impact on sanitation and on rodents? When you've got an apartment building like this, I'm pretty sure that there is a significant increase in the amount of garbage. and as such will be a significant increase in the amount of rodents. And subletting. What are the regulations if somebody takes this apartment, pays the rent, but now starts subletting? Is there controls in place for that?
Okay.
And with that, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Mr. Baker, I got a couple there if you want to jump up there. And, you know, I was kind of let you kind of respond to a couple of those. I know, would there be any modification to the existing streets?
Yeah, so there'll be no modifications to the existing streets. There's no intention on making requests to change the signage that allows either for no parking or no stopping up and down for quite some way, north and south of the property. I can quickly respond to a couple of these. Construction will take about a year, and we'll utilize the on-site parking for the people that are working and so forth. As far as garbage goes, there will be a dumpster on site that will be privately picked up and taken care of. I think, as was mentioned earlier, initially it was set back along the property line. That's been moved now alongside the building as an accommodation to someone who requested that. There will be no allowance for subletting. I mean, if people do that, they will be going against their leases. The leases will not allow for that. That's what I can address.
I get. I know the other concerns were of course the traffic, which you talked about before. Next, I have Daniel Chekla. Mr. Chekla, good afternoon. If you give your name and address for the record.
Daniel Chekla, 1399 Liberty Avenue, North Belmore, New York. Okay, Mr. Supervisor, council members, I'm here to speak in support of this project for the zoning change and for the proposed apartment project. I'm a neighbor. I can view the building from my home. I received the notice of this meeting from the attorneys involved, and as a result, I feel that I'm directly affected by what happens at this property. Second, I'm the former vice president of the North Belmore Civic Association, and I heard the council member mention that he's heard from a lot of civic leaders who are against it. I'm a former civic leader. I'm for it. The way that a property sale occurs, whether it occurs or it doesn't occur, can definitely impact a community positively or negatively. As a taxpayer, I think that it's very important that the North Belmore School District, the Central High School District, the Town of Hempstead, and Nassau County receive revenue from this property being put back on the rolls. I've seen the plans for the apartment building. I was happy to see that it was aesthetically in keeping with the neighborhood suburban character. It's a nice looking building, in my opinion. It's not a cookie cutter box. The proposed 28 units were the fewest number of any of the potential buyers that the temple was offered. It's a key reason why they were chosen as the buyer. The apartments would be upscale. Mr. Layton has addressed several of the concerns of the community about lighting, about the location of the trash facility, and about fencing and greenery. He seems genuine in his desire to accommodate us. The building would essentially utilize the current footprint and wouldn't really rise any higher than the current building. The parking and traffic studies indicate that traffic would actually be less than the synagogue created. And let's not forget that the synagogue also had a ballroom. It had party facilities. The children played outdoors at a playground all day, and we could hear the noise. Since I lived behind it, I could hear that during the day. I will tell you that change is often difficult for communities to swallow, but this project is definitely in the best interest of our community. Failure to approve this change at this time, I think, would eventually lead to just years of delay because the sale process would have to start all over again. And we've seen what happens when buildings in our neighborhood lie vacant for an extended period of time. They become magnets for vandalism, graffiti, and they turn into a blight on the surrounding area. Okay, this project would return this property back to the tax rolls?
Okay, Ms. Jekyll, I don't want to be rude, but if I don't hold you to the 3 minutes, I'll get picked on by people, so I got to hold you to 3 minutes, okay?
All right.
I think
I'm gonna just ask for your
we
vote.
value your comments. We listen to you. We appreciate. We have a lot of people, so I got to keep it moving along there, okay? Thank you.
I'm going to ask for your vote in favor of this.
Thank you.
I'm definitely for it.
Thank you. Carrie Coranto, you indicate you did not want to speak. Is that the case? We don't get to come back. You either get to go or you don't go. What? I'm calling you now. Okay. Good afternoon to you, and your name and address for the record.
Hi, Corey Coranto, 1260 Julia Lane in Belmore. So I don't have anything prepared, obviously, but I am not for this project. I hear all the items that you have brought up. I understand there's concern about what this could be if this doesn't go through. I'm not one that succumbs to threats, so I didn't appreciate that. But I have children that go to Sawmill, and for someone to stand here and say that there's room in the classroom, well, maybe if your child or your grandchild receives services in an auditorium or in a hallway, maybe you would feel a little differently than I do, but I feel this way. I don't think the school has capacity for this. I don't think you have proper and real data from the neighborhood to support what you think will be the child enrollment. So I'm concerned about that. The traffic. Listen, you said it for yourself. Somebody had said when the UPS truck stops, we're all backed up. I could be stuck on Belmore Road for a long time for a few deliveries. And we're okay. We're a neighborhood. We tolerate it. But this 28 unit is large. 3 stories is a lot. I beg you to reconsider. I don't think anybody thinks the building is unattractive. I find it very attractive. I think it's very nice. It's just too big. It's just too big for the area. North Belmore has had a lot go on in the last 2 years. We have a lot of vacancies. I understand that. I don't think any community member is happy about the vacancies, but it still has to be right for the community. I'm invested in here a long time. I've been living here 12 years. I'd like to see it come back the right way. From 7-Elevens to schools at the end of the road, we're packed. North Shore Farms, we're packed. We're packing out as far as traffic goes. So again, I am not for this. I would like to see some other proposals, some options. I realize it can't stay vacant. I too appreciate the temple keeping it up to date and keeping it clean and maintaining it. It means a lot to the community. So I will leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Charles Voorhis. Has he spoke? Charles? Yeah, okay, I was going to say Charles spoke, okay. Next, I have Marie Testa. Good afternoon. If you give me name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. I am at 2616 Martin Avenue, Belmore. I am the superintendent of North Belmore School District, and I'm here with Jackie Rehack, who is assistant superintendent for business. We appreciate you having us here today. A lot of what I heard here today, I'm hearing for the first time, so I'm really speaking from the school perspective. I've been in the district for 25 years. I'm an expert on the enrollment and the trends over this time period. I've made recommendations to the Board of Education about enrollment. I'm very concerned at the fact that the conversations did occur without the input of the school district. We were not invited to any community meetings, so I do extend that perhaps there should be a community meeting since so much had to do with the schools, the enrollment, and the impact. I'm wondering how the people who research this know that. I know that there is a definite impact. We have rezoned recently under the time that I have been at the district per the Board of Education to relieve that zone of students. We've increased 606 students in 2 years to over 700 students in the school that's zoned for that area, Sawmill, and I'm at capacity at all 5 schools. We have a way that we deliver instruction and education, and we are at the place where it's optimal for our students in terms of services. While I understand the change from residential to commercial may have a benefit for us, I don't know the numbers. I hear them here, $227,000. Ms. Rehak may speak to that. That could be for us one student. We saw that when we had the recent construction over at Horseshoe Drive, where we were told originally from the study on enrollment that we would have 12 to 15 students over a certain amount of time, and we're well over 100 in that area now. So we've had significant enrollment issues in our school district. We have a beautiful school district. I understand what the project is and what we're attempting to do. I thank, Temple Bethel, who has always been a good neighbor. But we do also have traffic issues in that area. We recently had an individual struck by a car in that area because of the traffic. We have people outside directing traffic at a certain amount of time. We have North Shore Farm on one end and Goddard School on another, which creates a lot of traffic during that time. But really what I'm looking at is the enrollment, the cost per student, depending on the students. 6 students across different grade levels may seem that that is something that we go for, but I know the numbers and I know where we are as a district, and the Board of Education is committed to keeping the capacity at what it is now. So this has the opportunity to come in and change the dynamics where we would have to rezone again, and I'm at capacity. So you may have children in that area going to schools in other schools in the neighborhood, because we cannot take that on at this time. We have recently, over the last few years, paid for enrollment studies, rezoned, and we're really committed to keeping Sawmill Road School and our other 4 schools where they are. I do not have any extra classrooms.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you very much. Next, and by the way, thank you, Deputy Superintendent. Don't feel I didn't recognize you there. Next I have, and if I really maul your name, I apologize. Jacqueline Rock? Oh, see, there you go. Jacqueline, you didn't have to go anywhere. Come on. You get to give your name and address. That'd be awesome.
I'm Jacqueline Rehak. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Business at North Belmore, and it's 2616 Martin Avenue. Just to echo a little bit of what my superintendent said, there was that community meeting, which I felt was important that the schools should have been invited to, especially if we're going to talk so much about the impact that this has on schools. I would think that the schools should be the #1 source for the impact that this has on schools. And we were never contacted to see what effect this would have on enrollment or what our current enrollment is. As Mrs. Testa mentioned, the last time there was a development project, we were told there would be about 12 school-age students, and that development, we do have over 100 school-age students in that area. We do have 1 bus alone for that street that goes to a school. So it does cost us a whole bus from that area to go to the school that we transport from. So not only is it costing us a bus, but we've had to rezone students from that school to other schools, which also costs us more transportation costs. You talk about coming off of from being a religious property to now coming back on the tax rolls, and that would generate maybe another $227,000 of tax revenue, which I know is split between us and the high school district. So that's not all coming to North Belmore. Part of that is North Belmore. But for us, 1 student with special needs could cost us $227,000. So if we were to see an influx of students, that cost could be well over $227,000. And again, our share of that is probably only about half. So when we look at that, that really doesn't do that much for our schools. If we do have an influx of kids on about 30 units, if we see 30 kids and that's only 1 kid per unit, which it could be a lot more than that, this could generate a lot more cost than it does any help to our residents. So there's a huge concern with the cost of this as well as enrollment. And as Mrs. Testa said, our schools right now are really at capacity. And what we saw from the last couple of years of needing to have more space and social distancing, it's just not something that we've had. So this is a huge concern from us. So those were just a couple things that I know from listening that I've heard that I just wanted to point out. And I'm just seeing if there's anything that we missed, and I don't think so. But, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We appreciate it, and good work working with our receiver of taxes. Next, I'm going to bring up, now you wrote no, you didn't want to hear it. Charles Kilbridge, you wrote no. Do you want to be spoke? You want to hear it or not? Charles? Oh. Okay. Nicole Tuffarelli. How you doing? Your name and address for the record?
Good afternoon, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good afternoon. I'm Nicole Tuffarelli, and I am a North Belmore resident who resides at 1491 Horseshoe Drive, which is just around the corner from this Temple property. My family has been in North Belmore for over 3 generations. And I just want to make a comment to refute the previous board member from the Civic Association. I do know that the current board did actually send a letter to Dennis Dunn over the weekend in opposition of this development. So just driving around the North Belmore neighborhood side streets, you see that it's primarily comprised of all single-family homes. And the change of zoning for the current proposed plans offered by latent developers doesn't coincide with the character of our neighborhood. For those actual people that live in the area and really know the streets, this is not a major thoroughfare that they were giving examples for when they were talking about Valley Stream and I believe Levittown, Carmen's Avenue. They are not comparable side streets. What else was I going to say? I'm intimately familiar with this area, having grown up there for so many years, and going to the school district as well. If you drive around the surrounding blocks, you'll find that it's almost exclusively single-family homes, and also to refute what latent developers and their, all their builders were saying about our neighborhood, Belmore. Any commercial properties or even multifamily dwellings that are in our town are limited to large streets that basically connect our town to the other towns, meaning roadways like New Bridge Road, like North Jerusalem, like Sunrise Highway. These are multi-lane roadways, not one lane each way. So these other multifamily dwellings are in big thoroughfares, not Belmore Road, which is a side road essentially. The places where you see these structures have been strictly limited to those type of roads. You see none of these proposed dwellings outside of those major thoroughfares. I do understand that the land must be developed, but the proposed complex is not consistent and would ruin the character of our beloved neighborhood. It would add more congestion on our side blocks for our morning commutes, which I directly drive north on Belmore Road, and it is already congested. It would also increase our class sizes, which our superintendent attested to are already at capacity. It would also put strain on our water and infrastructure that already is in need of repair. And I think it would overall decrease our quality of life as North Belmore residents. I understand the benefits of development and that it can't stay vacant for, oh, there it goes.
That's okay. Thank
Lastly, I just want to say I feel that we didn't have time to prepare. And that any future meetings about this, I would like us to be informed.
I will tell you right now, first off, you didn't need prepared remarks. You spoke wonderfully. You know what we appreciate, we're like I said, the residents are all having their opportunity, and you know what, people are still sending in emails and other comments, and we're going to be reviewing that, and they're being made part of the record, just so everybody knows. Anything that's coming in, and we were receiving it, the clerk did indicate to everybody that is made part of the record, that is reviewed by the board members in the decision. I appreciate it. Next, and I'm definitely going to destroy your name, Edward Vincigura. I tried. I'm sorry. Vincent, good afternoon. I won't say your last name again.
Vincigara.
There you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Edward Vincigara, and I reside at 1213 Raymond Road in North Belmore. I've been a resident here for 35 years. And I have several concerns. I just want to complete what Nicole was trying to say about notifications. I believe someone had mentioned earlier that there was a meeting between the community and the builders at some point. I don't know if anybody knew about that. I know I didn't, several of us didn't know anything about that. If I did, I definitely would have been in attendance. I am a member of the North Belmore Fire Department, which arises several concerns for me. And looking at the schematic on the back of the building where the parking lot is, I do see that there are, I believe, 7 spots for electrical vehicles, 4 handicap spots, and the rest are parking spaces. I do not see any hatched out areas for fire equipment, and I really don't believe that in regards to firematic and medical response vehicles have the ability to maneuver around in the back of this building. God forbid there is an emergency for medical or fire. There are 66 allocated spots for, and I'm assuming that they are spots that are 2 per unit for 28 units. Are these parking spaces designated to the individuals that are in the occupying the units? That's my question, because if they are, that means that there is no room for visitors to be parking. And where are they parking? On Belmore Road. More traffic, more congestion, and that just raises another concern for that. So, and again, it does look like a beautiful structure, but they just dropped an apartment building right in the middle of our neighborhood that's all single-family homes, and I believe it's an eyesore. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, I have Mr. and Mrs. Kreisel. Did you find your phone? Good afternoon, Ms. Kreisel. If we give your name and address for the record.
It's Martha Kreisel. I live in North Belmore on Cliff Lane. What I have to say is going to be redundant, but I'd like to just say it as somebody in support of the project, somebody who is a lifelong, I've lived here since I was 7, resident of Belmore, graduate of MEPM. That's irrelevant, but anyway. I'm definitely in support of this project. As a retiree, I could push this down. As a retiree still living in North Belmore, near all my friends, I would be enthusiastic to have the ability to sell my home to a younger family and move to an apartment nearby. Staying in this town would be important. The apartments proposed by Layton Properties would afford many seniors a wonderful opportunity to stay in the neighborhood they are familiar with. Turning down the variance would be a missed opportunity for the town of Hempstead to get increased tax revenue. Every home sale means the potential of new students to the school district to keep the schools viable and increase potential customers to Belmore Village. I've heard the complaints that added students would overwhelm Sawmill Road. However, it is pure conjecture to me that the students who move into the apartments would be in the same grade in the same building. There's chances they were in high school, they were in junior high school, they may go to parochial school. All we are at this point is guessing. It's also pure conjecture that there's too many students. A percentage of the apartments are 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom, which would probably negate large families renting these apartments. To my mind, many of these apartments are going to be taken by senior citizens who may or may not have one car. Maybe they have no cars. Some of the apartments will also be taken by young families or young professionals who will walk to the train station. Again, no cars. I don't see traffic as a particular problem. As been mentioned before, the temple had many, many functions. Every Monday night, there were 85 people at bingo. There were 85 people playing mahjong during the day. It was a busy place to get in and out. Many of the seniors certainly will not be going out all day long, every day. So I think the traffic, again, is conjecture on some people's parts. I don't see that as a problem. As a local resident, I don't see any downside to the development in either site or design. And I think it would be a way to enhance the neighborhood, not detract from it. Yes, most of the commercial sites are around the area, but there are automobile repair places right in the area. We can't forget about those. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kreisel. Next, I'm going to call up, well, you said you didn't want to speak, but I'm still going to give it a shot here. Gina Rocker? Okay, good. Ed Sentiment?
Good afternoon.
If you name and address of the record, good afternoon.
Ed Sentiment, I live in North Belmore. My wife and I have lived in this area for over 30 years. Our kids went to Sawmill and Mepham. By the way, first of all, I want to say I'm in favor of the project. Our kids, when we went to Sawmill, the ratio of students to teachers was 15-1. It is now 10-1. I drive by this.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone's going to get their 3 minutes, so.
I drive by this vacant building every day going to the train station, obviously, except for today. It's depressing to drive by a vacant building like this, which has been vacant for over 2.5 years. I remember my kids went to the highly regarded nursery school here. The building was a source of vibrancy and activity in the community over the many years we lived there. I have concerns about the building remaining empty if this change of zone doesn't get approved. This building has become a hangout for teenagers and a source of vandalism, and it will continue to deteriorate physically over time as it remains vacant. The parking lot in the back sits next to several homes on Liberty Avenue, which will be harmed by continuing vandalism and the lot being used as a hangout. No communities like zombie buildings. We have a potential development here which appears to be in sync with the character of the neighborhood in an unobtrusive manner. It is also good to have positive investment in this area, in our area, and it brings a tax-paying entity to the area as well. In addition, many people that I know, like my wife and I, would like to stay in the area and sell our homes and live in a high-end residence. It's more affordable than buying a condo in one of the Birchwood developments, which range in $800,000 to $1 million range. The rental cost for a 3-bedroom apartment here is more or comparable to what a person pays in a mortgage and real estate taxes for a 3-bedroom house in this area, so it will not depress home values. There is a lack of housing for empty nesters in the area, and this provides an option for this. As stated by the experts, the project does not add to traffic or put any additional strain on municipal services, including schools. The alternatives, as previously described, as to the use of the building without a change of zone, are impactful and scary and will impact home values negatively. I want to also address a concern that Councilman Dunn had. At one point, our temple was full, the parking lot was full 5 to 7 days a week, and there was spillover traffic onto parking onto the streets because of the services, schools, social events, and bingo. So from an environmental standpoint, though I'm not an expert, there's certainly 28 apartments, you're no worse off. We also should,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got it. You're in favor of it, and you said that at the beginning. Next, I have Mr. and Mrs. Welt. Good afternoon. Your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. Carrie Welt. I live in East Meadow. I am in support of this project. Question was raised about access to the building by emergency service. I am also a member of a fire department, and the building is going to be built to code which addresses that specific issue. So that should not be a concern. I will also say that the building has been used by the North Belmore Fire Department multiple times for training because we are trying to do what is good for the community. And I, as I said, support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Welt. Next I have John Leonard. Good afternoon. If you give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is John Leonard. I live at 1316 Walker Avenue, which is just around the corner from the temple. I'm trying to amend my written comments based on what I've heard today. So I guess I would like to start by saying that I'm just really targeting these comments to the town to ensure that the town will do its due diligence in looking at everything that's been said and hopefully can come to some sort of a compromise on things. I understand that not everything is going to be what the community wants, but I think we're going to have to compromise to a great extent here, and I hope that can be done. So my first question is, did the town conduct a needs assessment to determine which use would address the community's greatest need? As far as the building height, I actually went over to the building the other day. By the way, let me say I've lived in North Belmore for 35 years. My family's been there. I have 3 older sons who've gone to the schools, so I'm very sensitive to school enrollment. And Mr. Egan and I walked over to look at the property, and the one thing that I would say is that it's a little, I wouldn't say misleading, but when you look at the front of the property now, it's a flat roof, and from the street, it looks like it's only 2 levels. The proposal, which I agree is very attractive, but it seems like it could look higher from, excuse me, from the street level. Because now when you walk to the back, as Mr. Baker indicated, the property drops down. That's where you see the 3 stories. So now it looks like from the street level, you're going to see 3 stories plus those hip roofs. So I think it's going to just make it look even taller than is, I guess, described. I'm very happy to hear Ms. Testa's comments. I was going to make a comment about whether the school district had been consulted, so I'm glad, hopefully, that will be done now. One of the concerns was any overflow of traffic, or parking, I should say, onto the surrounding streets. So in light of everything that's being discussed, I just would like to recommend, has the developer or the town considered senior housing, strictly senior housing for the site? There'd be no school impact. The seniors would likely have less than 2 cars per household, possibly none, and their trips would be spread out across the day rather than those 2 peak times. You know, years ago when the Army base was converted, senior housing was initially considered as a component. It was never built. All upper income homes were constructed and the schools were impacted. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. And your timing was impeccable on that one. I got to give you credit for that. Mr. and Mrs. Nauer? Okay. Jerry Felicki? Good afternoon. If you give your name and address to the record, please. Thank you.
Supervisor, council members, my name is Jerry Flicky, 2754 Mayfield Place, North Belmore. I'm opposed to this. I'm shocked that anybody is for it. I can understand why if they're with Temple Bethel. I see the building. It's beautiful, but it's large. It's going to look over neighbors' backyards. I'm just trying to stick up for some of the neighbors that are over there, too. I don't think they want to have, like you said, a barbecue or anything and have people looking into their backyards. It's going to be rental people. It's not people that want to probably put their roots in the neighborhood. I don't understand that either. It's just, I think it's something a little too far for what's in an area that has strictly houses. If it was on North Jerusalem, a busy road area, more of a commercial area that you want to develop more into residential, something like that, I could understand that. You know, but this is just in the middle of a neighborhood of just houses. You know, I think everybody doesn't, if you wanted to live in an apartment building, a lot of people would go to the city, which a lot of people from Long Island do. You know, but you're trying to develop, you know, an area, again, has houses. I just don't see it fitting here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Brian Malloy. Afternoon, Mr. Malloy. If you give your name and address for the record, thank you.
Ryan Malloy, 1318 North Pierce Avenue. Just for some of the things that have been said, I agree. I'm not in favor of this project. I live on the other side of Belmore Road, so I cross Belmore Road to go to Sawmill, and we are outside of the busing. So we walk and we see the parents just from drop off, and with COVID and everything else, with more people, you know, driving their students to school, and with the distance of outside a half mile or inside a half mile, you walk to school, and so forth. In regards to some of the other comments, I've only lived here 11 years, but my kids are actually actively going to Sawmill. The capacity is 22, I think, to 1 teacher ratio. I don't know the official. Ms. Testa would have a better information on that, but that was lowered from 25. I think was the class size a couple years ago. So that was actually lowered. So the 15 to 1, that's great. 10 to 1, I don't know where you're coming up with that information. I could be very wrong. With the traffic, and it was brought up before about fire concern. The building could be the code. This is a wood frame truss building. You're going to also increase the occupancy of 24/7. It's not the temple or a nursery school where it's only occupied till 3 o'clock, or occasionally you have events. So you're going to have 28 apartments, say roughly 2 to 5 people. So your increase of load and the fact with the demand of a volunteer fire system or fire service. So there's going to be issues. And the other comment about if people move in and you have student age, although I'll be in the same grade. I have triplets. They are in the 5th grade. There are 2 other families that have twins. They are all in the same grade. So that can be a concern. And who's to say that the 3-bedroom apartment doesn't have multiples? So I am against the project. I just wanted to refute some of the things that were said.
Thank you very much. And dude, triplets, really. Wow. Next, I'm going to go Mr. and Mrs. Feldman.
It's busy.
How you doing? If you give your name and address to the record, please.
My name is Suzanne Feldman. I live at 1334 Belmore Road. I've lived in the area for 49 years, my entire life. I grew up just under 3/4 of a mile as the crow flows. And in 1997, my husband Charles and I bought our home, which is directly across the street from the temple. I've seen and lived with the traffic from parking in the temple on religious days of obligations, various events held at the temple, and daycare programs held there. My husband and I knew what we were buying across from, and despite it all, a big issue was bingo that was held there in the evenings weekly. The exit from the temple is directly across the street from our home. Along with the noise and the cars and people, light would spill into our home, causing a nuisance and disturbance. We never complained to anyone. Like I said, we knew we purchased a home across the street, and bingo, as I understood, was something that temples had weekly. At the meeting last April, the developer was addressed with the concern from a neighbor behind the temple at the light and the noise of the cars starting, idling, car doors, and people. The answer was what they would create a noise light barrier buffer consisting of a landscaping of trees. How do they propose to do the same for the homeowners like me in front of the building? Which brings me to the proposed 12 balconies at the front of the building. Is there a plan to reduce the impact from the loss of privacy? Are there any requirements to provide a visual screening? Bringing the setback part of the building out to the current frontage footprint, and with the height increase of the building, will create an overwhelmingly dominant structure that does not fit into the single-family residential neighborhood. It'll be overshadowing, overpowering, and overdominant in the single-family residential neighborhood. I strongly feel that an apartment building will depreciate property value in the neighborhood. This will add more traffic to an already busy residential side street. The developer has claimed a traffic study has been done and there will be no change in traffic patterns with the addition of 28 apartment units. I'd like to know when and what time of day it was, as I'll argue that in the summer the roads are less busy in the morning and afternoon when school buses are not on them. Days leading up and after holidays, you'll notice more traffic, but less on the actual holiday. When COVID hit and people stayed home, there was a significant decrease in traffic. How can you tell me 28 apartment units will bring no change in the traffic pattern to a single-family residential side street? When my now 21-year-old son went to Sawmill Road Elementary School, there was an approximate average of 16 to 17 children in a classroom. When my now 18-year-old daughter attended classes, it was at its maximum capacity. From what I've heard, they have rezoned the elementary district due to overcrowding. Tell me again this is not going to impact the area. Sewage and water need to be addressed as well. As the area was designed for single-family residents, can the infrastructure support the additional strain? What is the plan if not? For how long will it take to bring it up to sufficient standards, and the impact on the roads by any necessary changes, and who will pay for it? Is the apartment building being subsidized by the town? Will they get a tax break, and if so, how much and for how long? Has an environmental impact study been done? If so, how can the community access it? 3 minutes is not nearly enough to address all the concerns and problems that a 28-unit apartment building will bring to the neighborhood, thus ruining the aesthetics of our single-family residential neighborhood. Thank you for taking the time and taking sincere consideration as what is best for the homeowners and neighborhood.
It's another solid three minutes there, right on the clock there. Well done. Okay, next I have and I apologize again. Next I have a slip from Doris Pizawiziak. Okay, I'm sorry I mauled your name, but thank you very much. All right? You're against? Okay. Mike Clay? Mike, I got your name. It's rather simple. You're like me, so that's good. Good afternoon. Name and address for the record. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Clay. This is my wife, Rita. We're from 1483 Belmore Road. That's just south of the temple by 3 blocks. So I've heard some good things being said out here, which is the school stuff, so I don't want to rehash that. I agree that that was one of my concerns, but at the same time, the traffic is. You can get up on my block 5 o'clock in the morning and get mowed down just on Belmore Road. It's ridiculous. That apartment building and the driveways coming out of it will only add to that. My other concern, being a retired electrician, is what are you doing to the infrastructure of the neighborhood without development change? When they built Horseshoe Drive, I watched my water pressure drop down, I see my lights blinking, I see all kinds of stuff being done by the developers who get away building and then don't take care of the infrastructure itself or the town. The gas, where's all this stuff coming from? They make the money and we pay the price.
Hi, I'm Rita Clay. We live at Belmore Road. One of the things I want to bring up is the traffic. We've lived on Belmore Road for 30 plus years and have seen the traffic increase. We had Goddard School down at the end of Belmore Road that increased the traffic. We had the development of the Army base, which put 50 plus homes within the area, an asset in the end, but there was never any consideration as far as stop signs, traffic lights, or traffic control. Building something like this, you cannot tell me that there is not going to be any kind of impact to traffic. There will be. I don't care if it's 2 cars, 20 cars, 60 cars. We have now older children that live in our house. Our cars that were parked in front of our house has been hit multiple times because Belmore Road is not wide enough for two-way traffic. If there is a parked car on Belmore Road, people have to stop and let the opposite traffic flow through to avoid hitting parked cars. We've now put our cars in the driveway because my son's car was hit over 5 times with the rear view mirrors being taken, the side view mirrors being taken off. So both of us are opposed to this project. To say that, there's nothing else that can be built there has to be a compromise. A 28 unit complex being built in a neighborhood that's nothing but single-family homes is not acceptable, and it's not good for the community. It's going to be detrimental to the residents who live there, because we've all come to be used to having space and neighbors that are close but not so close. To have all this added residents in our neighborhood is definitely not going to be helpful for us. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Clay. You indicate you did not want to speak. Thomas Brennan, is that correct? No. Okay. Next I have Robert Hayes. Robert Hayes? Okay. Antonio Delaris? You don't want to speak? Oh, okay. All right. He can tell, like I said, anybody who had to leave early, please tell him to follow up with a letter or an email to part of the record. Okay. Kevin Cregan? Hi, Mr. Cregan. How you doing? If you give your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Kevin Cregan, 1317 Belmore Road. I'm one of the homes that you actually wrote down.
Yeah.
It's up there on the north side, towards the back of the parking lot. I'm against the project, and there's numerous reasons. I don't want to repeat every single one that I've heard, but you know, the key thing is it's too many apartments. 28 units is just an unconscionable number. There has to be a compromise that can be reached, because it's going to really change the flavor of the entire neighborhood. I also feel, I'm hearing that they can't build single-family homes. Well, my cul-de-sac has 5 on the north side. I know the builder. The one on the south side has 3. They didn't have to do any work to market it at all. I'm just not sure how much work was done into marketing it. I know it's a financial consideration, but maybe there needs to be a compromise. They may be making $1.5 million by selling it this way, and they only make $900,000 by doing it the other way. But that is the key to the community, to keeping it exactly the way, not exactly, but to keep it in tone with the environment and the way we have been living for the last, I mean, I'm there 31 years in that cul-de-sac. It's also too tall. They're not talking about it, but there's a playground on the south side for Sweet Tots. That's going to be destroyed, and they're going to build up 35 feet over that playground. That changes the way it's going to look visually from Belmore Road as well. There's also too much traffic as it is. They're talking about deliveries. If somebody makes a delivery, as it has been said, it's going to back up everywhere. Also, landscaping services. Landscaping trucks park on Belmore Road. You can imagine how it is if you're going to have an Amazon delivery at a landscaping truck and people going out to work all hours of the day or night. I also spoke to Mr. Layton, and I asked him if he would market it exclusively to age 55, or if not exclusively, at least guarantee that 10 or 12 of the 28, which again is too much, but if he would market it exclusively that way, and he said he would try. If this does go forward, which I hope it doesn't, I hope there's a requirement that a certain percentage has to go to age 55 or older, because, like has been said, they probably will not be driving vehicles, because to have 56 cars coming in and out of there on all hours of the day or night to go to CVS, to go to ShopRite, to go to King Cullen is just way more traffic than we were told. Also, the school situation, one of the experts said 6 is going to be the number. I find that extremely hard to believe. Why would you be putting in 3-bedroom homes, 3-bedroom apartments, if you're not going to have any children in those apartments? It just seems like the work that was done from that side is all on studies from guides, not the actual reality of living in a suburban area like North Belmore, Long Island. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cregan. I don't have any other slips on this one. Is there anybody who has not spoken, who did not sign in, that wishes to be heard on this particular hearing? Okay. If you go to the mic and give your name and address for the record, thank you. How you doing?
Hi. I just want to say this is my first time here, so I'm really nervous, so I apologize for that.
My name is Valini Narayan, and my address is 1368 Belmore Road, exactly across from the temple. I'm here with my husband, Kishan. He's a police officer, and I'm a district administrator. Although you've only been here for 2 years, we love our neighborhood, and we both felt the need to be here to support our Belmore neighbors, that we are also opposed to this proposal for all of the reasons mentioned, especially due to school and traffic concerns. I'm hoping that whatever is created is something that the community agrees with and is happy to keep the neighborhood as it is. Thank you.
Okay. For your first time, you did great, so welcome aboard there. And thank you both for your service. I don't have any other slips. Anybody who has not been heard or wishes to be heard, please go to the back mic there, sir. You're up.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing? Give your name and address to the record, please.
Yes. My name is Seymour Susswine. I'm a resident of North Belmore for over 50 years. My children all went to the local schools, and I can remember the junior high school they went to, which is no longer in the system, so I can imagine that it created a little contraction, but certainly I don't know that it created overcrowding. The reason I am speaking is because one aspect of this whole thing I have not heard much of, and that is any concern for residents of the area that may want to give up living in a home and the responsibilities and the work of a private home in order to then stay in the community and move into an apartment. This is the position I'm in personally. I know of many people that I know that have been in a similar position, and many of them have been forced to leave the area because they could not find accommodations in the area. So personally, I am in favor of the building, and I would welcome an opportunity to have more apartments available to those people who want to remain in the community as I do and cannot find what they're looking for. So I thank you for your attention and appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you very much. On this topic, anybody else who'd like to be heard on this? If it's not signed in, sure, if you, please. Name and address for the record, please.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. I'm just curious, you know, I don't live in the area, although I'm familiar with the capacity of the classrooms. What I'd like to know is, number one, why can't single-family homes be built in that area? As we all know, there's a petition concerning the governor and her suggestions or attempts to change the zoning for single-family. And I would think that this board would be interested in supporting single-family homes. So is that any kind of option?
That would be for the developer to answer, Ms. Madden. They'll respond.
Okay. And also, I also happen to know there are many, many people, mostly Belmore parents, that have wanted to weigh in on this and were not aware of it until today. I would strongly suggest that this board would consider evening meetings for such resolutions that impact parents and families, to hold these meetings at night, giving everyone a chance to be heard. What also is not spoken about is, you know, are the pilot programs. Would this housing be going for pilot programs, which then the taxes would be passed on to the surrounding homeowners?
Okay, we'll have the developer respond to that question too.
Okay, and lastly, as the board knows very well, I have urged them and proposed legislation. I'm not suggesting these developers are political donors to the party, but I would like to see this board launch legislation that when builders and developers come before you, that they disclose if they are in fact political donors. In the same way the parents have a right to know what's happening, they have a right to know if there's any influence when resolutions like this come up and they are left in the dark. When you have a superintendent that comes up and is kind of surprised that this is taking place today, that's a very strong message to me that the community needs to be more aware of where this is rooted. And again, I would appreciate if someone could tell me why single-family homes cannot be built in a community of single-family homes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Madden. I thought I saw another hand go up in the back that had not signed, didn't want to be heard. Was that? Hi, how you doing? All right, just give your name and address to the record. Thanks.
Eleni Barone, 2667 Range Road, North Belmore. I just wanted to add a couple of things. I was very active in the Goddard School and the tutor time that wanted to come in there beforehand. I just wanted to add that Goddard School is not at full capacity yet. So traffic will increase as that school actually is being built, and construction time going on 2.5 years. Okay, and this is a much, much bigger project. She's only one level and a residence. This is much bigger. I just wanted to add those two things.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anybody who has not been heard that did not sign in, was not called? Okay, Mr. Baker, I'll give you an opportunity to respond to some of that.
Thank you, Supervisor. There are a number of responses, so I'll try to get to them as best I can in the best order I can, maybe working backwards. So the single-family homes question. It's pretty simple for this property. The cost of demolition of the building is estimated to be in excess of $500,000 to $600,000. It's just not something that single-family home developers are interested in getting into to yield 4, 5, or even if it were 6 single-family homes. I would also point out, and I'm not an expert on this, but we've done it enough, and I've had enough applications, and we've talked about it with the experts enough. The number of school-age children produced by 6 single-family homes is likely in pretty good excess of what would be produced here with 28 units, where most of them are 1- and 2-bedroom families. And again, I'm going to try to appeal, and I'm not doing this in a in an antagonistic way, but more of a what seems to me to be pretty simple. When you've got 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, who is bringing multiple children into that scenario in North Belmore? I just don't see it. I don't see anyone raising their children that way when they're paying that much in rent and could easily put that towards the mortgage of a home, like the people that are here. I mean, it just makes sense to me. So I think that line of reasoning is a little faulty, and that we're really right on with that number. As to a pilot, that's not been determined yet, but certainly this project, like many that are similar to it, would qualify now if the developer were to go to the Industrial Development Agency to seek that kind of benefit. But I point out, if that was going to happen, then you would have a situation where a property that now is virtually not producing any real estate taxes would produce real estate taxes, and it would climb over a period of time, whether it would be 10 years, 12 years, whatever would be approved by the IDA, but certainly it would be an increase in taxes over time, and then ultimately it would be fully taxed as any other property. There were questions as to fire safety and things along those lines. The property is fully fitted. I discussed this with the engineer during the time that the question came about, but the sizing of the property is perfectly equipped for fire safety, ambulances, and similar type emergency vehicles to get into the property and service the property. As to any other utilities that were raised about water and so forth, those are utilities that, like anything else, would have to be would have to be dealt with, but the use of the property in line with any other use would obviously utilize water and sewer and would be built on this property in the proper form. There was a question as to deliveries or comments that were made about whether it's UPS or landscapers, anything like that. There's a parking lot here. It's behind the building. That's where deliveries will occur. That's where landscaping trucks will park. That's where anybody who needs to service this building will be. Just in thinking about the idea of traffic, the concerns certainly, are understood. This road, like many other roads, are built to the specifications that they were built however long ago it was. What exists there now and has grown over time has, increased traffic with time. We've all seen this in all of our neighborhoods. We live on an island, that is growing with the number of people, and as a result, properties are developed, like this one, like many others that are in North Belmar, throughout Nassau County, throughout the island itself. And, the reality is that different uses will bring different traffic patterns. We've talked about it certainly through our experts and the manner by which they analyze this, and the way we've done this in plenty of other applications and will continue to do so is to utilize the best information available and determine what the expected traffic flow will be. That's what is done here, and as our expert has described, it will be less impactful than, importantly, as I point out, the previous use and any similar use that could be here. Because again, the question really comes down to, in this application, what's going to be here if this proposal is not approved? If it's not going to be an apartment building such as this one, the temple at some point is going to have to make a decision as to who they're going to either sell or rent the property to, and it could very well be a use that is much higher in intensity in terms of traffic and other things. And by the way, Supervisor, if you have any comments that were made that you can recall that I'm missing, I'm happy to answer them, but I'm trying to go through my notes to hit everything.
No, I think you hit on a couple of the big ones. I do say, I do see the superintendent still here. I think the superintendent has raised some concerns, and the lack of communication in that. I think, that's something you have to rightfully address. They seem a little blindsided about that, and I just think,
and we will, and we're happy to speak with them.
I think there's also the fact that there are a lot of questions. We have we have to still review a lot of communications from people that it will be part of the record. But I think you hit on a couple of the key points there. If there's anything else you want to add to it.
No, I think we've covered it as best we can. I will point out that in these types of applications, with this type of response from the community, there's not always a resolution that we can come up with, or they can come up with, or you can come up with to help bridge the gap. Certainly, we can do our best, but ultimately, there's only so much that a proposal warrants, whether it's for financial reasons or usable reasons or whatever it might be. So certainly, we can discuss.
Like I said,
whatever there is, but
it's just
again,
the one that stands out, in particular to me, is the school districts, the fact the superintendent and the deputy superintendent in charge of business, they have some real concerns, and I would tell you have a listing of everybody's here. I think it's a great opportunity to try and do a strong. Whatever decision or reserve, whatever we decide to do in a little bit, it's an opportunity to really, the number of people who felt they weren't being communicated with, that's always part, listen, it's always part of the problem for everybody. And you know what? And look, we appreciate your proposal and everybody, and we appreciate the residents coming out, and like I said, and the administration coming out. We respect all your opinions, and we're listening to them, and we're going to be reviewing this. And I just want you to all rest assured in that. So again, Mr. Baker, I appreciate your presentation today. Again, the residents are coming out and sitting here for a real long time, and generally meetings don't go that long, but you've all been really good souls on this, and we appreciate it. With that, though, anything you want to add before we move forward?
I think we've covered it all at this point.
Okay.
Of course, we're open to any further questions, comments. If you receive that you want to ask, you can communicate however you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Or can I have a motion? I'm sorry. I apologize. Can I have a motion?
First, I want to thank you all for being here. This is quite a timely meeting. You left your home on a beautiful day like this to come here and tell us how you really felt. I think that the quality of life in North Belmore is wonderful. It's a charming community, and I thank you for your input, both sides. And we've heard some really good arguments on both sides. Of course, like I said, the preponderance and the scale is a little tilted. But right now, I'm going to move that the public hearing be closed and that the board reserve decision on this item. Second, please.
I second the motion.
Supervisor Clavin?
Okay, and again, just to echo the councilman's comments. One, thank you for the presentation, and thank for all of you coming here, expressing your feelings, and bringing some concerns to the attention of everybody here. Like I said, we listen and we find every one of your comments invaluable. With that, I will vote to what is the motion? Reserve decision. Yes.
All right, Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Councilwoman Miller?
Aye. And Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay. Thank you all for coming here today. I'm going to say, why don't we take a 2-minute recess to take a 2-minute recess.
Good. Can we have,
Thanks for coming. How you doing? Absolutely. No, everything. I have Temple Bethel, so it's in right now. All right. Hey.
My curiosity is how old is the town bylaw?
I think it is.
It also takes 10 seconds. Yeah. Even if you close a little bit. Oh. God, I gotta clear out.
What's that?
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, okay.
Two items, you go quick as the decisions, then you do straight calendar, and then the public comment. Yeah, public comments go straight. That's what I think this is a few personnel meetings. Public comment. Basically. First of all, everybody has a good point. I respect everybody's opinion. Yeah. But there are some people like some people are upset. I don't live in the neighborhood, but yeah, I agree. All right.
Yeah. Send me an email. Okay. If send it to me, I can. And no, it's okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start the meeting again. If you find your seats, thank you. Tommy, you ready? Madam Clerk, please call item 9 on the decision calendar.
Yes, I will.
Supervisor, before we do, I wanted to make a note of the fact that our new councilwoman was not present for the hearing on the 2 items on the decision calendar. The hearings are now closed. And as I discussed with Madam Clerk, she therefore cannot vote on them and is going to recuse herself. Did I accurately state that, Councilwoman?
Yes.
Okay.
I will recuse my vote.
Okay, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, please continue with the decision calendar.
Okay, on the first decision on the decision calendar is regarding the application of Valley Stream Green Acres LLC and BJ's Wholesale Club Incorporated for a permit to include gasoline service station within the GSS district and to install 3 storage tanks therein.
All right, may I have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt and accept.
Second motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item of the decision calendar.
All right, this is the second and final decision on the decision calendar, and it's the application of Bola EM Realty LLC to modify and amend certain declaration of covenants and restrictions dated August 2nd, 2019, situated in Seaford.
I may have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin?
Aye.
Councilman Creany?
No.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the administrative calendar.
Yes, on the administrative calendar, we have items 12 through 115.
Okay, first, does any member of the board wish to speak on any of the items in the administrative calendar? Okay, I have a couple slips in the administrative calendar. First, we'll start up with Felix Bercacci. Good afternoon, Ms. Bercacci. Name and address for the record.
Felix Procacci, Franklin Square. Number 92, the hiring of Charles Covet for some legal work. Was a resolution ever passed to authorize this legal work?
Mr. Procacci, the answer to your question is, as you probably know, Mr. Covet took retirement. There were a couple of matters that he had been working on virtually exclusively, and so we asked him to come back and complete that work. He did. It was a relatively small amount of work for a very small amount of money, approximately $6,000. But it's pure equity and fairness that he be paid for the time he put in.
I wasn't arguing about that. On items number 40 and 83, I opposed this spending. I opposed the lawsuit when it came up in 2016 because when I asked then town attorney Joe Ra, had the town engaged in any conversation with the potential defendants, he said no. So I asked, what communication did the town have with the defendants? And he simply stated he sent a letter to them. And to ask for $50 million or something in that range just by sending a letter, I think is absurd. I've read extensive portions of this case, including the motion for summary judgment that was came out December 6, 2021. And unless the defendants are completely lying, it seems like the town really dropped the ball in their analysis of this issue. They didn't. I'm not saying that they're wrong or anything, but they didn't do their due diligence in ensuring that they were assured that the defendant was responsible for the contamination, at those wells in question. So it just seems that we're spending a lot of money, 6 years of legal fees. 6 years of legal fees is a lot of money, and like I said, the motion for summary judgment seems pretty damning unless the defendant's completely lying throughout the whole thing. I think we should negotiate our way out of this and stop spending additional money on these resolutions. In addition, I see there's a number of CARES resolutions. I was under the impression that the CARES Act ended December 31st, 2021. Wasn't that supposed to be the ending?
Yes, the CARES Act ended on December 31st. What you're reading here is expenditures of money that has been repurposed from grantees. And the grantees have indicated to us that they are not going to spend all of their funding. So we are taking back $211,000. On the other side of the equation, we have 4 grants that we are issuing for expenditures that were made in 2021, plus some internal expenditures also for expenditures that were made in 2021. You cannot pay for any expenditures in 2022. So this is repurposing the grants that were not spent by the grantees. As you may know, when we issue a grant, it is just a potential grant. They have to provide the documentation to show that they spent the money. And in talking to all of the grantees that have outstanding invoices that we haven't received, a number of them, two in particular, indicated they're not going to spend the money.
As you know, I received around 4,000 pages of very details, more than I asked for, of how the town spent federal CARES money just in a portion of a $20 million allotments. And they indicate a wide variety of uses like clean or sewer and, you know, bathroom renovations and all that kind of stuff, things, painting and carpeting. Did you inform these grantees that they are allowed to use that money for that purpose, even though the federal law says you can't? Apparently, they're ignoring.
Well, first off, Ms. Ricacci, your interpretation is incorrect. Secondly, you know, people came with ideas like the Vaxmobile. It was a great idea.
Great idea.
Great idea. But I'm saying, you know, I know how you like to play with words, but I just want to let you. No, I wanted to help you. I just want to help you. People came to us with concepts and ideas from colleges and universities, from hospitals, for the Vaxmobile and a lot of other ones. So when somebody brought the idea to us and we voted on it in a very public forum, that's how we handled it.
I perfectly agree, and I never play with words.
Best day ever.
I never agree. I never play with words. The problem is that the uses of the money.
Thank you, Mr. Grantees
may not know that they were allowed to use
Mr.
it
Ricacci,
for these
you know 3 minutes. You've been doing this for a long time. And the other thing, I just want to let you know, you're not a lawyer, right?
I'm not a lawyer.
Okay. In legal papers, it's amazing. Sometimes defendants say they didn't do anything wrong. And that's why you have a lawsuit. And ultimately, you'll either have a judicial decision or by a jury. So even though somebody in a summary judgment motion seeks to dismiss a case, it's actually rather common that defendants take that position. And when we feel that the Navy's liable for poisoning the water of thousands of residents in the town of Hempstead and is ultimately costing us millions of dollars, if the defendant wants to go out and say they didn't do it, if you want to take it at face value, you go right ahead. That's the idea of litigation, and that's the idea of trying to hold somebody accountable for poisoning the waters in the town of Hempstead. So I just wanted to fill you in that that kind of motion is actually more common than others. But we appreciate you always being here. Next I'm going to call, thank you, Mr. Picacci. Next we're going to bring up Bonnie Garone. You said we agreed today. It was a happy day for me. Thank you very much. Ms. Garone, the podium is yours if your name and address for the record.
Bonnie Garone, Rockville Center. I have two items I'd like to ask about. The first is item 14. This is authorizing an indoor firing range at Plattdeutsch for the rest of the year. Can someone please tell us what exactly that is? And the clock should stop. I'm done. It's like 2 seconds ago. Please back it up, like they do in the NFL. Add 2 minutes to the clock.
No, we won't give you an extra 2 minutes.
2 seconds.
The firing range, Joe? It's a firing range.
It really speaks for itself. Sorry.
Okay.
Supervisor, it
So in
speaks
other
for
words,
itself,
talking about
and
people-
it was an application that was placed before us, and this is not the first time. It's been done before in front of the Plattdeutsch, and once again, it's being requested of us. So I don't think there's anything to add beyond what it states right there in the resolution.
It's been in existence for, I think, decades. Am I right about that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Well, whether it's been in existence for decades or not, in this climate, in this day and age, we really want to encourage people to bring their weapons into a crowded commercial residential area like that and have a shooting range, you know, whenever they want for the rest of the year. There is a perfectly good shooting range run by the county at Mitchell Field that is open to the public. Why on earth is the town of Hempstead encouraging or allowing people to bring guns where they don't have to have their own private firing range? Stop the clock, please. I'm done.
Ms. Garone, the town attorney answered your question.
And I would only add
Anyone
that,
here think that they answered the question?
I would add, Ms. Garone, that this is a private shooting gallery, as you know, that has been there for a long time. This is a renewal that they placed before the clerk's office that has come up routinely. It's been in existence for a long time. At a certain point, they need to have everything renewed, and that's all they're asking.
What difference does it make if it's been there for a long time? We're encouraging people to bring weapons into the town in a crowded area to have a private shooting gallery where they don't need to because there's a public shooting range not that far away. I just think it's a terrible idea, and you haven't given one iota of a reason why this board thinks it's a good idea. But let me go on because I see my time running.
Ms. Garone, I just wanted to say that there's no basis to give an idea. It's not a question of support for it or against it. It's a renewal of a permit and an application.
And if we think it's a bad idea, and if current event, people's thinkings, sometimes, maybe not here, but sometimes people's thinkings evolve over time. And maybe ours should evolve to look at this critically and not just pass it along. Do we want people bringing their guns into Franklin Square to have a private shooting gallery? I think the answer should be no, and none of you have said anything to the contrary. But let me ask you about item 69. This is selling a piece of property that formerly was technically parkland. There's a purchase price of $3,000. Can you tell me how that purchase price was determined? Was there an appraisal by a licensed appraiser?
Yes, there was an appraisal that was done, and that's how the amount was derived. It is effectively useless to the town, and it's being acquired where we get at least some compensation for what we are effectively abandoning or giving away as useless property.
I understand, and I love how you editorialize every time I ask a question rather than just answering. The reason I ask this question is because the authorizing legislation at the state level, which was required in order to undertake this alienation of parkland, said it had to be for fair market value, and that's why I asked about the appraisal. And I'm not even going to go into the rest of it. I would appreciate if when, I ask a question or anyone asks a question, please just answer it. We get 3 minutes and you can talk for an undetermined amount of time to give your point of view, your opinion, your explanation, but never answer the actual question. And I really think that that's a shame.
Okay, Ms. Garone, we appreciate that, and we appreciate your opinion. I think Joe does a fine job as a town attorney. I think he does answer your questions. I don't think he editorializes. Perhaps you don't like to hear some of the answers you hear because you don't agree with them, but I don't think it's a reason to, I think Joe's an engaging, energetic guy, and I really think he does, he brings a lot to the table there, so. Next, I have Ms. Meriday. Okay. Next, I do not have any other slips on the administrative calendar. Is there anybody that has not been heard that would like to speak on anything on the administrative calendar? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the administrative calendar in its entirety.
I second it.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
I vote yes on all the items except for item 109. I vote yes on all the employees except for I'm recusing myself from voting on a promotion of Dennis Dunn Jr. because he's my son. And aye on all the rest of the items.
Thank you. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay, now that the formal part of the program's done, the town board will remain to listen to the comments of its residents. We'll start with Diane Madden. Good afternoon.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. First of all, welcome, Councilwoman Miller. I'm holding out a lot of hope, knowing that you are an advocate for the differently abled and your own child. I hope that your efforts parallel for animals in the town. I'm sure you've been paying attention. The shelter is in desperate need of new management and an overhaul, quite frankly. So welcome, and I hope you will be very involved and influential. Supervisor Clavin, I actually admired the way you handled the Belmore situation, and I hope that you'll take that on to how you'll be moving forward with the animal shelter. You know, my gut instinct tells me you're hearing some things because there have been minor changes. Those changes will be temporary. It's imperative to bring in outside, independent, caring management. I realize Mr. Pastore is very loyal to the Republican Club. That's all fine and well, but it doesn't bide well with being a director that puts animals ahead of politics. I went to the shelter yesterday. A little bit of my heart breaks when I go there. Feces in every cage. The place stunk. Employees couldn't even walk around. They said they are accepting volunteer applications, which I believe that was your action as well, but they're not reviewing them. Many volunteers refuse to come back to the shelter in the same way that rescuers refuse and foster families refuse. You have animals in there that are adoptable right now, but you also have ones just like those that came in adoptable and are unadoptable at this point or nearing that status. Right now, I believe the shelter is still just by appointment only. I ask you to change that immediately and allow the public to freely, not just freely come in, but come in to adopt on the spot. Many times, and from my own experience, people walk in a shelter and sometimes they don't even consider adopting until they find that animal that reminds them of a pet they had. And that increases. You need more eyes on animals. Not Mr. Pastore, Mr. Marino's philosophy of lock everyone out. So please open that up to allow adopters to adopt at any time, not just by appointment. As far as the cats, I urge you to stop shipping these cats out in the same way you wanted to know proof in that last resolution. I would say and strongly suggest that before you do that again, you would have someone that you can rely on to inspect that premises. Let's not forget, Mr. Pastore inspects Kim Strong's, and you made a statement that you really felt those animals should come back.
Ms. Madden, as always, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you bringing some stuff to my attention. I'll be sure to follow up on it. So I thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next I'm going to Felix Procacci. Well rested. Good afternoon, Mr. Procacci. Feeling refreshed?
I just want to follow up on where we left off. I did not say that Grumman didn't pollute the area. What I said was the town did not do its due diligence prior to the lawsuit. I was against it because they, first of all, they spoke on pending litigation, which is a no-no here. But Joe Rob brought it up and everyone advertised it, the town advertised it. They should have met with the potential defendants before going into the lawsuit, and Joe Rob made it very clear, and it's on video, you can watch it if you look up that resolution, it's on my channel, that the town didn't engage in constructive dialogue prior to the lawsuit. And I don't play with words ever. On the CARES Act, you should notify the grantees that they're allowed to renovate bathrooms, use it to paint walls, carpeting, clean sewers, because that's what the town did with federal CARES money, and I got the receipts and the purchase orders for that work. Now, I'm not playing with words, I'm being very clear. And we had a councilwoman take an oath today. The oath included obeying the laws, the code of the town of Hempstead. I have an ethics inquiry going back to October 18th of 2021, in which Stephen Leventhal has not responded, violating the code of the town of Hempstead, which requires that he respond. So I would like you all to follow your oath and get rid of Stephen Leventhal if he doesn't do his job. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Couch. You have a great afternoon. Next, I have Stu Kroll. Afternoon, your name and address, please. Thank you.
Stu Kroll, Great Neck. On a positive note, our TNR program is operating at full capacity. However, there are serious negative factors occurring at the shelter which are tragic for our animals, particularly the cats. How can we have sent 11 more cats to Good Shepherd Sanctuary in Maryland? We have been committing this atrocity on a regular basis. There are conflicting reports as to whether these cats are feral or friendly. Some of these cats have been listed in the adoptables page, indicating that they're friendly. Good Shepherd is supposed to only accept feral cats. However, with Hempstead being a recurring customer, perhaps they're relaxing their standards a bit. Hempstead operates with a $5.5 million budget. Our cats should be getting proper socialization from qualified personnel and be free roaming rather than be locked in cages. The last time I was at the shelter, which admittedly wasn't recently, there were many cats languishing in cages for no reason whatsoever. We have enough volunteers to socialize these cats, so adoption will likely follow. Are they being allowed to do the job that they volunteered for? We have a crisis of leadership at the town shelter. How can someone with a scintilla of a conscience send any cat to a mostly outdoor sanctuary in the dead of winter? These cats have been in warmth with easily accessible food at our shelter for some period of time. How can we then allow these cats to be expected to survive, let alone thrive there, being thrown out in the frigid winter temperatures? Many of these cats will die miserably due to the callousness of our shelter leadership. We have a shelter director, Pastore, who originally approved the facility in Utica, which was so heinous that it brought the Utica mayor to tears, which is on video. We also have a quote-unquote behaviorist trainer, Fonte, who lied about having most of the qualifications required for her job. In the real world, this prevarication would lead to immediate dismissal. I would be interested in knowing who pushed her candidacy. She was the highest bidder and least qualified for the job. How then did she get the job? It is clear to me that our animals suffer and will continue to do so when our shelter leaders are unqualified and care precious little for these animals. They are clearly not competent and have no right to make life and death decisions. I implore this board to transfer these people somewhere where living creatures need not die for their lack of ability and compassion. Perhaps they can be sent to the highway department to keep Mr. Uri company. Speaking of Mr. Uri, we all assume that people are innocent until proven guilty, but I'm sure the police did a very competent job. I reiterate my belief that it is morally wrong to expect any town employee to work alongside an individual facing multiple counts of dogfighting and torturing animals. He should be suspended with or without pay pending a trial, and if convicted, he should be unceremoniously dismissed. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Kroll. Safe ride home. Next, I have Kathy Powell. Good afternoon, Ms. Powell. Name and address for the record.
Kathy Powell, 3544 Island Road, Wonton, New York. I had a whole speech here of what I was going to say to you before the decision on the Bola Market drive-through, but I'm just shocked and kind of really disappointed. Mr. Dunn, Councilman Dunn, you know my in-laws, Bill and Carla Powell, for many years. This is negatively affecting my mother-in-law's life. She is wheelchair-bound, can't get out of her house, and her backyard was the only sanctuary she had. The only way we could visit my mother-in-law was at her house. And once the market went in, the fumes from them filling up the gas tanks, we have to go inside. We get headaches immediately. We're nauseous. We have to throw out the food. We can't eat it because it tastes like gasoline. And now you're allowing this, which I believe was from the beginning from Bola's point of view, that they planned this drive-through that is not just going to be Tim Horton Coffee and Donuts, because they have Pizza Huts and Burger Kings on numerous of their drive-throughs, numerous of their Bola markets. Okay, this is a dangerous, dangerous intersection. Since they've been there, we've had a kid hit by a car. We've had my mother-in-law's aide hit by a car and needed surgery. We've had, numerous near misses. We've had their own trucks, gas trucks, making an illegal U-turn on Merrick Road. I'm just so disheartened that you voted yes to that. Councilwoman Gooseby, you've always been about the people. You've always been the champion of the mom and pop. To have anybody even go there and see this intersection? You just made it 10 times more dangerous. I was there for 5 minutes this morning because I just wanted to see what was there. Every pump was pumping. Every one of their pumps was there. At 9:22 and 9:24, 2 cars went across illegally in the opposite direction of the road to go inside the place where it said, do not enter, because it was the exit. They don't listen to the no left turn signs. They ignore them when they're up. They've been down for months. Now they're back up. This is a dangerous intersection, and you just made it even more dangerous. And my mother-in-law's quality of life, there's no shed of it left.
Thank you, and I will also reach out to the police commissioner. Well, we're going to send an official letter asking him to post a unit down there and issue tickets for the people, and I don't care if it's a commercial or residential, because it's unacceptable. Next, I have Ms. Meriday. I think she left. Stephanie Capuano. Good afternoon. Name and address for the record.
Stephanie Capuano, 34 Wishbone Lane, Wantor. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I just want to say that I am speaking on behalf of the animals at the animal shelter. As you know, I wish it would move to the direction that it should be moving. It is moving, actually, and you're doing great. But the foster program, we have a great foster program. We, at the shelter, they give great vet care to the fosters. If they take an animal, they give food, they give kitty litter to people that want to foster. Can we please promote the foster program somehow? Maybe Channel 12, getting it in the papers, the Long Island Press. We need to get fosters to get in there, get some of these animals out of the cages, get them friendly again. Because those Belmore cats that were in the hoarding situation, they don't want to be shipped to Maryland. Why should they be in the middle of the winter when we have a great many people that would like to foster? So can they promote the fostering program also? There are other things, of course. We need the volunteers, in which you're working on, I know, Mr. Clavin. You can't fit a square peg. It's an expression. You can't fit a square peg into a round hole. You just can't do it. We need proper, compassionate management because you can't change somebody. If they're not going to move in that direction, they had that mindset. They're just not going to be there, and they're not prepared to be for what we all want. And we have a great shelter. We have great personnel. We have great staff. But you cannot fit a square peg into a round hole. So it's time for a change. Thank you very much, and thank you for letting, I'm going to speak before my 3 minutes are up. Thank you very much for listening. You have a nice day.
You too. By the way, I looked for you at Ivoroni Brothers, so I didn't see you up there. I do not have any other slips from anybody else. Anybody who's not been heard that'd like to speak? Have you been heard? Just go to the back and give your name and address to the record. That'd be great.
Hi, my name is Janice Tice. My maiden name is Powell. Mr. Dubb, my parents supported you, and I can't believe this board just decided to put this drive-through in our backyard. I have sent numerous emails to the board. I have sent photos. I have sent videos of the traffic, of the noise that I hear from my bedroom window in regards to this drive-through. It has been an ongoing issue, this Bola Market, for years now, and the disregard this board has shown to the neighboring community is honestly really troubling and disturbing to me. I have sent photos of the cars that back up onto Merrick Road, even before the drive-through was built. I have them all here, but I didn't know that I couldn't speak until I got here and after the decision is made. I have sent photos of the BOLA transportation truck that makes their own truck that makes the illegal left turn out of the BOLA market. They can't control it. The issue with the drive-through, honestly, for me, is the noise pollution. My bedroom window faces that yard. I sent a video to the board showing so they could hear what I hear, is the people talking. And BOLA claims that they could control all that, but what they can't control is the people that yell into the microphone to order their lattes, to, you know, the noise, that the level of the volume of their car, the music that they play. They can't control any of that. And that affects my quality of life, my mother's quality of life that my sister-in-law just spoke about. It's just, I cannot believe this is actually, you just sat here and voted for this with all the evidence that I have given the board in regards to this. It's just very, very upsetting, and my quality of life, my mother's quality of life, and my property values have all just diminished literally within minutes. Minutes that you have made this decision and just honestly destroyed a lot. You know, BOLA claims a lot of things, and the reality of what we live with is extremely different than what they told you. And it's just beyond upsetting to me. Everything my family has done for this community over the years, very upsetting. Thank you.
As I said, we're actually going to reach out to the Nassau County Police Department and ask them to enforce and ticket anybody who's breaking the laws down there. Let it be a resident or the commercial unit, and they're going to be held accountable. We're going to put them on notice, and we're going to ask them to do it. All right? Then we'll ask the police department to sit there the entire day and enforce the law. All right. I do not have any other slips. Is there anybody else who hasn't been heard that'd like to speak on this? Okay.
Bonnie Goran.
Good afternoon.
Again, still from Rockville Center. It's been a very long day, so just a couple of things. Number one, somebody made a suggestion after the developers' presentation that perhaps developers with business before the board should file some kind of a disclosure on campaign donations. I think I've mentioned that before with respect to contracts that are before the board. I know that the county does it for contracts, and I think in the interest of transparency, it would be a wonderful thing for the board to do, to have a disclosure form that accompanies any application, be it a developer or an application for a contract. And even if there's nothing sinister that would be disclosed, it would make everybody feel a lot better and understand that they know what's going on and see that everything's on the up and up. So I think that's a suggestion that I wish you would take under advisement. Second, I spoke last time about the terms of the members of the Board of Ethics as being listed on the site as no expiration date, while the town code says exactly the opposite. And I checked it last night, and I see there's been no change at all. So I hope that's something you're looking at. It's kind of disheartening that some of us spend a lot of time looking over the items on the calendar and looking at town issues with, you know, the idea of trying to, you know, help the community and make some suggestions, and to feel that that's all for nothing because you're not listening or you're not looking at the things we raise is just very disappointing and disheartening. Finally, something else that I've asked about in the past is if, you know, I listened to everything that's said about the animal shelter. I know a bit about it myself. And if there's not going to be a change in management so that there is a change in management style and a change in the philosophy of how that shelter is operated, then would you please form an advisory committee of citizens who are interested to try to make suggestions? An advisory committee is just that. They would look into issues and look at best practices and give you advice, which the board will take or not take. But it's something, it's crying out, there's a crying need for this if you listen to all of these comments. And you know what, Supervisor? You'd be a hero. You would look terrific. Everybody would be a great thing to do, would have a great outcome, and you would look terrific as the supervisor of this town. So,
I feel confident that not everybody would look at me that way.
I might even, depending if you do this. It would be, listen, there's no downside. It would be a feather in your cap.
Ms. Garreau, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I do take to heart all your comments. And you know what? Things seem to change. Maybe they're not a snap of a finger, but things do seem to change. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here today, and I'd like to again tell our new councilwoman, welcome aboard. And this is a very short meeting, so enjoy.